The scene opens on a beautiful sunny day at the Delin Royal Academy. The professor on the podium is lecturing with great enthusiasm. Now, focus everyone, this is truly the era of heroes. It's been 5,000 years since the heroic chronicles appeared in the world. During that time, the lower realm has undergone many changes. Just like how the Delin Royal Academy has been chosen as the venue for this year's Lumern entrance exam. His eyes brightened. Among you, there will surely be someone who passes this exam and is recorded in the heroic chronicles. I believe that the heroes of the future are right here, among us. To achieve that, the teacher was interrupted by a loud crash. He tried to ignore it and continue. You must. Then, another crash. The teacher, annoyed, looked toward the back of the classroom where a silver-haired student was fast asleep. Leo, the teacher yelled. If you think you know the lesson so well, then let me ask you, what rituals were performed 5,000 years ago for someone to be called a hero? Leo Plove, 15 years old, with red eyes and white hair, from the Plove family, languidly stood up, scratching his head. Well, roughly, if you make a name for yourself, people will naturally respect you. The teacher, defeated, held his head in his hands and sighed. Does anyone else want to answer? At that moment, his red-haired classmate, Gulliver Trayton, sitting next to Leo, raised his hand. In ancient times, there was no way to receive the recognition of the gods. Heroes were chosen through sacred rituals. For example, the blood ritual. The teacher nodded approvingly. Excellent, Gulliver Trayton, the greatest magic genius of our kingdom. We have high hopes for you in this year's Lumern entrance exam. Having answered, Gulliver turned to look at Leo, grinning smugly. Leo, however, didn't pay much attention. He sighed and opened his book to read. Back then, meeting the gods was so easy. Holy rituals? He thought. Back then, to honor the great heroes who had fought against the Urbans, the gods had bestowed upon the lower realm a miracle, the heroic chronicles. Leo, bored, closed his book and rested his chin on his hand, looking out the window. But why do they treat me like I'm invisible? Forgotten. Special note. The great hero Kyle reincarnated. Suddenly, the classroom became noisy. The students all crowded to the windows, chattering excitedly as if they had seen an idol. They're here. Where? Look, it's the emblem of the Zerdinger family. In the hallway, two nobles were walking. The man was dressed in mysterious black attire, while the young woman following behind him wore elegant white clothing. Behind them was a group of soldiers escorting them. The students sighed in awe. Wow, that's Celia Zerdinger. At this moment, an announcement came over the loudspeaker. All students, please gather in the auditorium without exception. The Zerdinger family has come to visit our school. Hearing this, Leo got up to leave his seat. Gulliver scoffed. Leo, are you trying to impress the Zerdinger family? Do you think they'll even notice you? Leo nonchalantly replied, I'm going home. Then he turned and walked toward the door. I'm not interested in those things. Unlike you. Gulliver, as if his sore spot had been touched, blushed and shouted, I'm not interested either. I just want to see Celia Zerdinger as a rival. Leo waved goodbye with an, yeah, whatever, gesture that infuriated Gulliver even more. I'm serious. Scene change. Leo is standing in a dark building, breathing heavily with sweat dripping down him, showing that he had been training intensely and relentlessly. Leo picked up a wooden sword and opened the door to go outside. Even though I haven't neglected physical training, my body is definitely better in this life. Suddenly, a voice rang out. What are you thinking about so deeply? A woman holding a sword lunged forward, striking down at Leo. The boy quickly blocked the blow with his sword. As Leo was about to explain, the woman lightly jumped back. It's been a while since I've sparred. You can't get into Lumern if you only have mediocre talent. Reina looked at her son, smiled, then raised her sword again. This is the final test. Leo. Then, mother and son charged at each other with their swords. The clash of their blades created sparks of light and deafening sounds. In the midst of the struggle, Reina smiled. Should I be a little more forceful? They traded a barrage of blows. Blue and red swords weaving together in a fierce battle. Leo, out of breath, frowned at the old woman. Aren't you pushing me too hard, Mom? She smirked. While blocking all my moves? What are you talking about? As she spoke, she jumped at her dear son, her eyes shining sharply. Suddenly, Reina was startled. Oh, no, I've used too much force." Her sword was on a direct path to Leo's face. She panicked. What if Leo can't dodge it? Luckily, Leo dodged his head to the side. Avoiding the deadly blade, the sword swished past, cutting a few strands of Leo's hair. At the same time, he swung his sword at his mother. She fell to the ground. Surprised, the tip of the blade was right next to her neck. "Are you okay, Mom?" she gasped, looking at the sword in front of her. How deep is this child's talent? The training match ended. Reina got up and brushed off her clothes. "Leo, you still plan on going to Lumern, right?" Lumern, which the two had been mentioning repeatedly, was the hero academy of humankind, among the 4 hero academies of different races that recorded the heroic chronicles. This was the place where his record of capability would be registered the highest. Leo's eyes sparkled with confidence. "Of course, I am." His mother gave Leo some news. "The Zerdinger family is visiting Dellen, and they'll be staying at our manor." "The Zerdinger family is staying at our house?" Leo wondered. "Yes, I'm not very happy about this. But I will ask Viscount Guise Zerdinger. I will ask them to pass on the Zerdinger field technique to you. With that technique, you will be strong enough to enter Lumern next year." She patted Leo's head. Leo muttered, "The Zerdinger field technique?" Then, he smiled to himself. "Mom, but I plan on entering the academy this year." A little later, the Zerdinger family had moved to the Plove family's mansion. The Zerdinger soldiers lined up neatly, welcoming their master's carriage. Celia Zerdinger, 15 years old, the swordswoman of the Zerdinger family, stepped out of the carriage, thinking with some annoyance, "Why did Uncle rely on a place like this? Why not rent an entire hotel? I just want to focus on the Lumern entrance exam. Why come to a small family like this?" Guise Zerdinger, the Viscount of the Zerdinger family, called out to the girl with a gentle expression. "Celia, the person who said they weren't interested in the Zerdinger family." Celia responded haughtily, "A would-be knight who doesn't know how to use the field. Probably not worth watching, is he?" The Viscount smiled. "My view is a bit different." The Zerdinger family entered the Plove family's mansion. The mansion was not filled with extravagant items, but it was spacious and exuded nobility. The two families officially met, the Viscount bowing his head in greeting. "It is a pleasure to meet you." The Plove family patriarch, Duke Dade Plove, and his wife, Reina Plove, welcomed them warmly. "Welcome, Guise Zerdinger," the Viscount told his niece. "Greet them, Celia. This is Duke Plove." Celia bowed politely. "I am Celia Zerdinger. I look forward to your care." Reina stepped forward, extending her hand to the girl. "It's nice to meet you, Celia." She gazed at Celia, thinking she really looks like my brother and his uncle. Celia was startled. Wait, black hair, red eyes. Could she be from the family? At this moment, the Viscount introduced further. "Reina Plove, she's your aunt." After the greetings, the servants were in charge of arranging the Zerdinger family's belongings in their rooms. Everyone sat at the table for afternoon tea. The Viscount slowly said, "We stopped by the Dellen Royal Academy earlier. It was crowded with all the students gathered. But I heard that Leo said he wasn't interested in us and went home. The mighty reputation of the Zerdinger family is quite disappointing." Reina laughed. "If that made you unhappy, I apologize on behalf of my son. He's only interested in training." "What kind of child is Leo?" The Viscount was curious. Reina recalled the battle just now. "Indeed, he possesses incredible talent." She stirred her tea. Guise said seriously, "Do you really believe that Leo has the right to inherit the Zerdinger flame?" Reina confirmed, "It's not just because he is my son. I believe he is more than worthy." Guise smiled happily. "If you have said that much, I'm looking forward to it. However, I'll need to check his potential myself." His face turned serious. On the other side, Leo, unaware that he was becoming the topic of conversation, was focused on sword fighting with his same-age peer, Celia. Clearly, Leo was gaining the upper hand, while Celia was struggling to parry the blows. Rewinding to a moment before, Leo was sitting cross-legged in his room, closing his eyes to focus. A streak of blue-white light wrapped around Leo's wrist. A moment later, he opened his eyes, observing the blue light radiating from his arm. Finally, the vessel to receive everything has been completed. The reason I haven't learned the field until now is because the moment a person accepts a field, the body will naturally adapt to that type of field. losing the opportunity to accumulate mana and spiritual strength. In my previous life, if I had mastered their strength and nature more perfectly, if I had handled everything completely correctly, perhaps I wouldn't have left behind the seeds of disaster. This life, I will fully master it. First, starting with the field. At that moment, a figure approached. "You're Leo Plove, right?" Leo turned around, surprised to see his classmate. Celia stood with her hands on her hips. "From what I've seen, your basics are quite solid. I will specially teach you swordsmanship. How about it?" Then she thought, "That will also help me score points with his mother." "Who are you?" Leo wondered. Celia introduced herself proudly. "I am Celia Zerdinger, known as the swordswoman of the world." Leo stood up, facing Celia. "Oh, is that so? Thank you for your concern. But I have no intention of being taught by someone weaker than me." Celia was astonished. "Are you saying that you are stronger than me?" Leo calmly replied, "Well, in a life or death battle, you're stronger, because I don't use a field. But if it's a pure sword fight, then it's a different story." Celia frowned angrily, her eyes shooting sparks at Leo. She looked around, then pulled out a training sword and walked towards Leo. "Okay, if you're so confident, then fight me." She smiled confidently. "Thinking you think just because you have a field you're stronger than me? I'll show you the wall of reality." Celia set a condition. "If I win, you will be my servant for the duration I stay here." Leo smiled. "And if I win?" Celia's face darkened. She pointed her sword at Leo. "Then I will be your servant." Leo picked up a wooden sword, smirking. "Then, let's start right now." And then the battle began. The two of them clashed with sharp sword movements. As she fought, Celia assessed her opponent. His speed isn't bad, but it can only be not enough. Leo swung his sword, delivering a decisive blow toward Celia. She was startled and parried the blow. The sound of the two swords clashing was deafening. Celia flew backward. "What is this power?" Leo's swing caused dirt and stones to scatter on the floor. Without wasting a second, Leo charged forward, his eyes staring intently at his opponent. Celia was horrified, covered in sweat. I can't block it." Leo slashed his sword at Celia. He coldly looked at her. "Field armor? Isn't this supposed to be a pure sword fight?" Celia was embarrassed. The red field armor surrounding her had cracked, and she stammered, "I only reacted instinctively." Leo said nonchalantly, "But that doesn't matter. I'll still win." Celia shouted incredulously. "What?" Leo continued. "The difference between having a field and not having one is like heaven and earth." He opened the silver bracelet on his wrist and threw it to the ground. "Want to try?" Celia went from one surprise to another. She looked at the bracelet. "Isn't that a magical bracelet with an enhancer?" "He's crazy." Leo smiled slightly, then jumped up, delivering another blow to Celia's field armor. Thump! The blow was so strong that Leo's wooden sword shattered in half and Celia's eyes widened. Almost fainting. "Why are you so violent, dude? This crazy guy." As the evening twilight began to fade, Reina and Guise walked and chatted happily. Suddenly seeing her son walking by, she called out, "Leo, come here and say hello." She pointed at Guise. "They are our family's guests." Leo bowed politely. "I am Leo Plove." Guise eagerly reached out his hand. "I am Guise Zerdinger, your uncle. As you may know, it's very nice to meet you." Suddenly, as if remembering something, Reina asked her son, "By the way, have you met Celia yet?" "Leo?" Leo hesitated, not knowing whether to answer. Behind them, two bewildered soldiers were carrying Celia, who had fainted from shock, out, worrying about what had happened to their young mistress. Guise glanced at Leo. "What happened?" Leo didn't answer, turning to look after Celia. Guise heard the soldier recount the entire story. He thought, he defeated Celia without using a field? After hearing everything, he approached Leo, praising him. "Defeated Celia? That's impressive. She underestimated me." Leo replied. "What did the two of you agree on?" "The loser would become the servant of the winner." Leo grinned. "Celia Zerdinger will be my maid for a week." Guise was clearly not pleased. He looked at Leo seriously. "Promises are important, but Celia is a member of the Zerdinger family. You can't make her do work like a servant. I want you to cancel that promise." He negotiated. "In return, I will give you another reward." Such as. Before he could finish, Leo bluntly said, "I refuse. This is a promise between me and Celia." As long as she bears the Zerdinger name, she must take responsibility. Geese asked, even if I teach you our family's field training technique? Leo smiled. A field technique used to cover up the failure of your niece doesn't seem worthy of me learning it. Geese glared. Leo Plove, you just declared that you will have a direct member of the Zerdinger family as a maid. And said that our family's field training technique is worthless. Correct? Leo wasn't afraid at all. He simply replied, yes. As if confirming what he had just said. Geese continued, don't you think that statement is too hasty? Leo placed his hand on his chest, politely explaining, I do not intend to offend the Zerdinger family. If you, Geese, give me the field training technique as a reward for defeating Celia, I will gladly accept it. But you offered the reward as a way to cover up Celia's mistake. That means that you believe that if Celia had not been careless, she would not have lost to me, Leo said confidently. However, even if Celia was serious in the match, I would still have won. Geese smiled, thinking, he refused because he doesn't like my attitude? This kid is quite interesting. If the Zerdinger family had a child like this, that would be great. Geese thought, then motioned to the two soldiers, ordering them, take Celia to the servants' quarters. The two soldiers were shocked. After finishing, Geese turned to the boy. Leo. Yes, Sir Geese. Just between us. He put his hand on Leo's shoulder. Call me uncle. Leo happily responded, yes, uncle. As it grew dark, Leo left. Watching his nephew's back, Geese turned to Reina and asked, sister, I did ask you to teach me our family's field technique, right? Leo, in order for him to learn the phoenix breath, you'll have to try persuading our eldest brother. The next morning, very early, Celia, dressed in a maid's outfit, stood in Leo's room, reintroducing herself with a completely unwilling expression. For 1 week, I will serve as young Master Leo's maid. I am Celia. Leo was intently reading a book. Hearing the sound, he looked up and smiled. The outfit suits you. The simple maid costume combines with your elegant style. This combination is really... Before he could finish, Celia clenched her hands, trembling with anger. I know I'm beautiful, but saying it like that is really weird. Leo was sweating. She's got a temper like ice cream. I didn't mean to offend you. I apologize. I have a friend, someone who always overpraises beauty. So I might have been unconsciously influenced by them. Leo sighed. An image of an old man sitting peacefully appeared in his mind. Eternal and immortal beauty is always the most wonderful thing. When peace comes to the world, I will dedicate my life to spreading beauty to everyone. Celia marveled. A friend who really loves beauty must be wonderful. Leo continued to be immersed in the memories of the past. The problem is that they're too sincere. Back then, that old man, facing two strangers, had said, although strict, Racines has a more beautiful demeanor than anyone. And Luna too, he eagerly offered. For art's sake, could you model nude for me? Look, I even brought a notebook. The two beauties had frozen solid at the suggestion, then rushed in to trample on the perverted old geezer. While Leo was reminiscing about the past, Celia noticed the book in Leo's hand. That book looks like a special training manual? After thinking for a while, she asked, what are you reading? Leo held up the book. Introducing, this one? I've read it a lot when I was young. It's called, The Original Hero. Celia blanked, remembering that when she was 5, she was still reading the Sangria fairy tale. It sounded similar. Could this be a fairy tale too? Then she approached Leo's bookshelf. The shelves were full. She looked around for a while and said, it seems you like the original hero very much. Even scholars who research great heroes can't compare to you. I just happened to collect them. Leo replied indifferently. Celia reached for a book. But especially, there are many books written about Kyle. Leo smiled and explained, among the achievements of the great heroes, the achievements that aren't clearly attributed to anyone, I think they might be his. Celia retorted, he must be a scammer, trying to steal the achievements of the real heroes. Leo turned and asked, are you talking about Kyle? Celia put the book back on the shelf. That's the common thought. And of course, I think so too. Leo turned around, quietly saying, so you think of me like that? Celia didn't hear Leo clearly. So she asked again. Leo got up and changed the subject. Well then, shall we start training after the meal? Celia enthusiastically suggested. If possible, can I train with you? Deep inside, she smiled. I really want to discover your secret. Leo asked back. It will be difficult to keep up. Are you sure you want to try? The question irritated Celia. She yelled, I'm Celia Zerdinger, okay? A little later, in the training room, Celia, in her training outfit, was sitting down, grimacing. Sweat poured down her face as she panted. Leo reminded her, when your physical strength reaches its limit, your reflexes will slow down, and your movements will become sloppy. And then you'll expose your back like this. Celia looked at Leo, a little in disbelief. Pushing yourself this hard, you call this training? That's right, Leo confirmed. These kids seem too weak. Compared to before, field techniques have improved, but physical training has been greatly neglected. The field is a power that optimizes the body's physical strength. In the end, strengthening the body also helps improve the field. And the result is like this. Hearing the word, weak, Celia was unwilling. She shakily propped her sword up and stood up. What did you just say? Weak? You're talking about me? Leo shook his head, implying, I was just saying. If the shoe fits. Celia was furious. She pointed her sword at him, then jumped at him, ready to punch him out of pure spite. Don't underestimate me, you damn white-haired brat. But as fierce as she was, only one counterattack from Leo sent her flying backwards. Crashing to the ground, she angrily cried out, Why can't I win? Leo approached the frustrated girl and asked, Is it difficult, right? Then he gave her the bracelet he was wearing. Take this. Celia reached out to take it. Before she could finish thanking him, thump, the bracelet dragged her down, slamming her into the ground. Obviously, Celia had no idea that the small bracelet was so heavy. Leo smiled and explained, This is a bracelet enchanted with gravity magic. From tomorrow, wear it during training. The next morning, while Celia was extremely exhausted from the intensity of the training, her uncle leisurely watched from behind. This will be a good experience for Celia. Before entering Lumern, challenging her pride first isn't a bad thing. He called out Leo's name. Leo turned and approached his uncle. Gies said to Leo, Leo, I plan to ask the patriarch to allow you to inherit the Phoenix Breath technique. Leo paused. The Phoenix Breath was the origin of all field techniques in the Zerdinger family? He had heard that only those recognized by the family could inherit it. Celia reminded him, Dad won't agree so easily. Right? Gies crossed his arms. Therefore, there is one condition. Pass the Lumern entrance exam this year. Celia was startled. What? The Lumern entrance exam is a real combat test. Uncle, someone who doesn't know how to use the field like young Master Leo. No, it's too dangerous. Leo smiled, recalling the image of himself in his previous life. Real combat experience. That's what he lacks in this life. Gies looked at Leo. What do you think, Leo? Leo put his hands in his pockets, replying leisurely, My parents said they would respect my decision. Then I'll participate. Gies nodded in satisfaction. As expected, the kid was planning to participate in this year's entrance exam. After the conversation, Leo continued running around the training ground, and also said to Celia, Then we've rested a bit. Let's continue. Celia sped up. Who said I can't keep up with you? A week later, the day of the Lumern Academy entrance exam arrived. Leo and Celia were at the academy grounds. The surrounding students were whispering, Isn't that Celia Zerdinger? It's great to see the swordswoman in person. But who is the person next to her? Celia smiled at her friend. Are you worried, young master? Not at all, Leo replied calmly. But shouldn't you change the way you speak? At that moment, someone called Celia from behind. When Celia and Leo turned around, Gulliver was surprised. Leo Plove? Why are you here when you don't even know how to use a field? Then he turned to Celia, his attitude changing 180 degrees. He bowed politely. Miss Celia, it's good to see you. How are you? Celia and Leo didn't pay much attention to him. Gulliver, a bit embarrassed, changed the subject, introducing himself. I am Gulliver Traden. I greeted you when you visited the school last time. The greatest magic genius of Delin. Before he could finish, Celia interrupted. Sorry, I don't remember you at all. Then she grabbed Leo's hand, pulling him away. Well, goodbye. She left Gulliver in confusion. Celia was called out again. The two turned to see the white-haired siblings from the Llewellyn family. The older brother, Avid Llewellyn, 16 years old, and his younger sister, Chelsea Llewellyn, 14 years old. Approaching. It's been a long time. Celia. Leo quietly asked. Who are they? Your acquaintances? Celia clenched her fist. The Llewellyn siblings. From the heroic noble family of the Rodran Empire. They're members of the Llewellyn family. Celia was emitting an aura of murderous intent. These people are also participating in the exam this time. So we can't lose. Leo. The Zerdinger family losing to the Llewellyn family is unacceptable. Leo was bored. Hey, I'm from the Plove family. The two Llewellyn siblings stood in front of Celia, greeting her. It's been a long time. Celia. Yes, it's been a long time. Avid Llewellyn. Celia politely responded. Who is the person next to you? Avid asked. Celia crossed her arms. He's a member of a duke's family from the Delrod kingdom. Leo Plove of the Plove family. Avid narrowed his eyes. Just an ordinary person. Leo was expressionless, simply staring at him. Avid turned his back, leading Chelsea away. Celia. The top spot will definitely be ours. Let's go. Chelsea. Yes, brother. Chelsea obediently replied. Celia sighed irritably. Those troublesome people. I will definitely defeat them. At this moment, on the upper level, Albi Giron, a professor at the Lumeran Academy, called out. It seems that everyone has gathered. Seeing that everyone was looking at him, the professor continued. I am Albi. Celia was surprised. Could it be Albi, the mage of evil intent? Leo asked again. Who is that? Celia was speechless. You really don't know? He's a hero recorded in the heroic chronicles. Leo thought. A person who is called a hero of this era. He looked at the professor. The amount of mana in that left eye is definitely. At this moment, the professor announced the details of the exam. The tests include battling with others and destroying monsters. Each person will participate in these two parts. Reading this, Albi used fire magic to burn the sheet of paper he was holding. I think this method is troublesome. He pulled out a book. The Heroic Chronicles. Opening the chapter on Albi's world. The beginning chapter. The Beast Forest. From the book radiated a magical light. And then a huge magic circle appeared in the area where the students were standing. Albi cast magic from the book. His eyes glowing brightly. He said, I will absolutely not accept any delays. I will combine everything and proceed in one go. Celia was panicked, but Leo still looked quite calm. The Heroic Chronicles wasn't just a simple archive. Its true value was in storing the challenges that the heroes of the past had experienced in recreating the hero's world. Furthermore, by conquering a hero's world, one could inherit the power of the previous heroes. This was almost like a hero training system. Leo narrowed his eyes looking at the scene before him. This was the Beast Forest. So this must be a hero's world. Professor Albi continued. That place is the Beast Forest. The test is about survival. You can cooperate or eliminate each other. You can do anything to survive. If you want to give up, break the orb you're holding and return. That's all. While the other students were confused, not understanding where they were. Far away there was a sound. Leo looked around, nostalgic. This place is still the same. Images from the past appeared. Before being corrupted by the Beast Queen Silatuna. This used to be the forest of the elves. Suddenly, a student screamed, What is that? It's scary. I want to go home. A light flashed before everyone. Someone said mockingly, It's just an illusion, so weak. Leo thought to himself, You're wrong. Although this world is recreated from the memories of Examiner Albi, everything that happens here is real. If you fall into a life-threatening situation, you will actually die. As he was thinking, suddenly a weapon radiating green light flew over. Leo jumped back to dodge the blow. From the forest, Chelsea walked out. We've met before, haven't we? It's fun to take down someone from the Zerdinger family. Leo coldly responded, I belong to the Plove family. Chelsea didn't care. You were with Celia earlier. Then she cast a spell. Wind slash. Streams of light surrounded Chelsea. Leo looked and assessed. That's a spell that didn't exist in the past. But the basics are still the same. Leo slowly pulled out his sword. Chelsea sighed, then smiled. You're still calm even with me standing in front of you? She spun her scythe in the air, then threw it toward Leo. The spinning staff was like a giant wheel heading straight for the opponent. Leo calmly, with just a simple slash, sent Chelsea's weapon flying somewhere else and planted it into the ground. The girl frowned. He blocked it? But I didn't sense any field being used. Is that a field attribute that is difficult to detect? Leo smiled, sighing. That attack was too simple. Instead of that, why not cooperate? This test rewards people who survive the longest with higher points. As a mage, wouldn't having a swordsman by your side be useful? Chelsea laughed, the green light rising again. Too bad, but I'm a battle mage. More importantly, you said my attack was simple? Leo still explained calmly. Did you hear clearly? With a wind spell. That blow was too monotonous. In terms of power, that's what it is. Chelsea's eyes widened. You're lecturing me, a direct descendant of the Llewellyn family. About magic? Then watch how you deal with a simple attack. Wind blade, wind arrows. Chelsea unleashed an attack from her staff. But when the attack got close, Leo suddenly disappeared, making the girl panic. I can't sense a trace of mana at all. Why? At this moment, Leo suddenly appeared right next to Chelsea, his fist ready to strike. Chelsea was shocked, her scythe flying straight up into the air. Chelsea collapsed, and Leo laughed coldly. Well then, should I politely ask you to cooperate? At this time, in the academy building, a large blue screen appeared in the middle of the hall. On the stands, everyone was very excited. Wow, it finally started. On the other side, Leo tied Chelsea to a pole, while he sat leisurely by a campfire nearby, a strange smile on his face. A moment later, Chelsea had regained consciousness, opening her eyes slightly, and was shocked by her current situation. What is this? Leo casually asked. Are you going to cooperate with me? She bit her lip. Never. I don't need anyone but my brother. Then she cast wind blades to untie herself. But it did nothing. Leo smiled and explained. This is a magic seal formation. But because Leo didn't have much mana, he couldn't keep it up for long. He held the string around his hand. Chelsea frowned. This type is easy to break. Leo smirked. You think I'd let you concentrate? He pulled the string, flames bursting around Chelsea, making her struggle violently. Ouch. It's hot. Wait a minute. The flames started to catch Chelsea's dress. Leo repeated, cooperate. Chelsea panicked. All right, I will. She agreed. Swear on your family's honor. I swear. Chelsea shouted. I swear on the honor of the Llewellyn family that I will cooperate. Stop it. It's gonna burn my dress up. Leo happily let go of the string. Easy peasy. Since she's still a kid, it's easy to scare her. The string on the pole loosened, and Chelsea suddenly fell straight down. Leo smiled and caught her. I look forward to working with you, mage of the Llewellyn family. In the observation room, the progress of each student in the map was being closely monitored. Albie stood high above, silently assessing them. They're just low level. Choosing competition is really stupid. The ones who quickly grasped the essence are those two, Celia Zerdinger and Avid Llewellyn. He recalled the scene of the two of them working together to defeat a monster. The Empire has a bright future, doesn't it? The screen then switched to a scene of Leo and Chelsea fighting monsters. Chelsea stood in front, luring the monster, while Leo jumped from behind and sliced it down. Albie was a bit surprised. Huh? Isn't that Leo Plove? What he did at the campfire earlier was quite strange. But persuading Chelsea Llewellyn to cooperate is a big plus. He doesn't have the strength or the excellence of Celia or Avid. But he is an unexpected factor that cannot be predicted. At that moment, an arrow shot straight into the monster, leaving a huge hole in its body. Then, a slash to the neck took the monster down. Leo lightly jumped back next to Chelsea. She crossed her arms. It's convenient to have a knight around. Let me just ask, what kind of field are you actually using? I haven't felt a single bit of mana from you since the beginning. Leo nonchalantly said, I don't know how to use a field. What? Chelsea was shocked. How can you do that without a field? The nature of everything is what's important, Leo said indifferently. At that moment, from behind the two of them, a monster quietly approached. Leo continued, that also applies to wind magic. What do you think the nature of wind magic is? Chelsea's left eye glowed as she spotted the monster. Casting Wind Blast. The monster was hit and fell to the ground. Chelsea sighed in relief, returning to the conversation. Talking about magic in front of the Llewellyn family is ridiculous. Leo continued walking. I commend that power, but your way of using it is not right at all. Chelsea was about to roar. You're really? Suddenly, Leo signaled for Chelsea to stop talking. Wait, stop for a sec. He stepped forward, then sat down to examine the corpses lying scattered around. Chelsea was puzzled. This looks like a mummy. Leo added, I've seen this way of feeding before. Then he thought, now I understand the conditions for passing this test. Suddenly, a dangerous attack flew towards the two of them. Leo quickly shielded Chelsea. Jumping back, a group of people approached. Too bad. I wanted to take down Chelsea Llewellyn first. With Chelsea Llewellyn eliminated, that guy beside her is nothing special. Gulliver smirked. The two people next to him were also enthusiastic. Alright, let's attack. Leo's eyes turned red as he threw a punch. Like a thunderbolt. At one of them, the guy was instantly knocked out. Gulliver was shocked. Leo stood up straight and said to his teammate, get up and support me. Chelsea, as if waking up from her initial shock, nodded, okay, then stood side by side with Leo. Gulliver ordered, what are you doing? Attack quickly. With eyes that couldn't see Mount Tai, Leo's eyes lit up, and his killer mood was officially activated. A moment later, Gulliver was running for his life through the forest, constantly encouraging himself, I can't fall like this. I'll go find another team. Celia heard the noise and glanced behind her. Spotting Gulliver, she recognized him immediately and told Avid, let's go this way. After walking for a while, the two of them stared in amazement at the battlefield around Leo and Chelsea. Besides the monsters, there were also people lying everywhere. Chelsea's eyes shone brightly as she jumped into her brother's arms. Brother. Avid hugged his sister. Chelsea, are you okay? Celia then questioned Leo, why are the two of you together? Leo scratched his head. Well, I suggested a partnership. That stubborn girl didn't want to cooperate, but I persuaded her pretty well. Leo smiled proudly. Celia glared. What did you do this time? Leo didn't answer, kneeling down to help a student who had just been beaten into a pulp. Chelsea wondered, why did you help them? Leo explained, competition is no longer necessary. We'll conquer this world together. Everyone was confused. Why conquer the world? Leo explained, the beast forest is currently in an abnormal state. Do you see those corpses? It seems all the moisture in their bodies has been drained. That's not the only strange thing. And while this is the beast forest, aren't there too few monsters? Celia also remembered. Now that you say it, I just noticed. It's like they were eaten by something? There must be a high-level monster that appeared, causing the other monsters to hide in fear. Avid added, I understand. The first achievement of the hero Albi was defeating a high-level monster. Suddenly, Leo's eyes widened. Something was approaching. A pink-white pillar of light appeared in front of them. The group was shocked. It seems it has appeared. On the other side, Gulliver was holding his magic staff, illuminating the darkness. He was exhausted, stumbling along the path, muttering, one way or another, I will eliminate you, Leo. As he stumbled, he bumped into a corpse lying stiffly on the ground. He fell to the ground, screaming, what the hell? Suddenly, a thick, viscous liquid fell onto Gulliver's magic staff, and then onto his head. Gulliver slowly looked up, stunned with fear. Right above him, the demon spider had been there all along. Seeing him, the monster let out a terrifying hiss. At the academy, most of the students had already returned. One student stood with their hands on their hips, bragging to their friend, I took down about 15 or 16 of them. The other one excitedly said, I killed about that many too. On the observation platform, looking at the blue screen, Albi calculated, a total of about 500 so far. They have all failed. A teacher was quite flustered, reminding him, but Professor Albi, no matter what, you have to choose about 100 people. Like other areas, there are only 50 students left participating in the test. Albi adjusted his glasses. If they don't meet my standards, I'm ready to fail them all. Headmaster Callion entrusted me with this exam because he understands that. The professor thought, true heroes are only found in difficult times. The screen showed a scene of Leo helping a student to his feet. Leo Plove. He must have noticed the abnormality in the forest. But can he overcome this world? On the other side, Leo's group was running towards the monster. The surroundings were pitch black. The students who had previously fainted had now recovered and followed Leo's group. One person grumbled, damn it, it's pitch black. A growl echoed. Celia stopped, casting a spell on the tip of her sword. She reminded the others, there's something ahead, be ready to fight. She pointed her sword forward, and the figure of the monster appeared. Gulliver was stuck in its mouth. The group's jaws dropped, stunned. What the hell is that? The one in the back is the real one. Avid was about to attack, but Leo stopped him, quickly reminding Gulliver, "Hey, orange head, wake up, and break the crystal now." Gulliver bit his lip, squeezing and breaking the crystal. A yellow light descended from the sky, surrounding Gulliver and sending him back to the academy. Avid then unleashed his power on his staff, launching the attack Wind Fang at the monster. The monster was injured but not significantly. That attack wasn't enough. The monster was still extremely ferocious, roaring angrily. Leo thought to himself, "Just as I thought, it's the Spider Princess, Tarantulia." At this moment, Avid jumped high, planning to attack the monster directly. But the monster was not to be trifled with. It swung a leg, knocking Avid flying backwards. Celia was ready. "I will finish it in one blow." Radiant slash. Celia cast her spell, and red light wrapped around her staff, piercing a huge hole in the monster. The monster cried out in pain, but in just a moment, the wound healed, as if it had never been hit. Celia was shocked. "Impossible." Avid flew over, smiling confidently. The destructive power between a knight and a mage is worlds apart. Impact. A powerful wind rose, and strong blue light wrapped around the air, then slammed straight into the spider demon. Suddenly, the creature disappeared, making Avid stop. He looked up in shock. The monster had been right above him all along. Chelsea frantically cast Wind Blast to save her brother, but she was too late. Avid was hit on his right arm and fell to the ground. Chelsea worriedly ran to her brother. "Are you okay?" Avid reassured his sister. "Yeah, I'm okay, thanks, Chelsea." The others were pale with fear. "What is this monster? That regeneration ability is really weird." Everyone was at a loss as to how to defeat the monster. Their faces clearly showed their anxiety. The monster kept getting closer to them. Leo calmly introduced it. "That is the daughter of Silatuna, the queen of Tartaros, a monster in the Erebos army that ravaged the elven forest." Everyone was shocked to hear this information. Leo delved into thought, analyzing the opponent. Tartaros. The mana in Albi's left eye is indeed the mana of the Elf King. Tarantulia rules the cursed wilderness. It destroyed the elven forest and ate the right arm of the Elf King in the battle with it. I thought Luna had killed Tarantulia, but it seems that the right arm of the Elf King inside it saved its life. More precisely, the infinite life force from that hand, the Ring of Life. At this time, Avid continued to speculate to launch another attack. "If this monster is the key to the test, then I will defeat it." Celia was puzzled. "Who said that? Who said that?" Even so, when she saw Avid attacking, Celia also joined in, jumping up to slash at the monster. The monster was hit by both blows. Its body mangled. Before the two could celebrate, Leo spoke up. "It will keep regenerating until your mana runs out." As soon as Leo finished speaking, a series of dark blue orbs flew toward the monster. Or rather, they flew to fill the monster's wounds, making it as good as new. Celia turned to Leo and asked, "So what do you suggest?" "I need 2 people to cooperate with me," Leo replied. Avid's face was a little pale, but he was still blunt. "I refuse. I will be the one to get the highest score." "No, it's me," Celia said, vying for the spot. Leo spoke up. "If we don't get through this hero world, everyone will be eliminated, so let's stop arguing." The two immediately shut their mouths. Avid frowned. Even with cooperation, it will take time to prepare an attack strong enough to defeat it immediately. Only the 2 of us can hold the monster off long enough. Hearing that, Celia and Chelsea both looked at Leo, waiting for a solution. Leo said, "I'll do it." Celia objected. "What? That's like suicide. You don't even know how to use a field." Leo was very calm. "I know. I can only hold it for 5 minutes." Avid was worried. What if the attack fails? Leo turned and glanced at his friend, then bent down to pick up a weapon. "I don't think that will happen. Fire and wind are always good friends. They coordinate very well." Celia and Avid looked at each other, thinking hard about whether to do what this kid said. But Leo didn't let them think for long. He jumped up, slashing at the monster. He smiled. Monster of Tartaros. Scene change. Back to the past. In the forest, a young elf girl was running for her life, trying to escape the demon spider. But she got caught in the spider web that the demon had spun. She struggled to free herself. But then the spider approached. roaring terrifyingly. The little girl trembled, squeezing her eyes tightly shut, crying out in despair, "Someone, please save me, mommy." Suddenly, a golden light appeared along with a voice. "Step back, you evil thing." The girl, with tears streaming down her face, slowly opened her eyes. Light? In the radiant light, a figure holding a magic staff appeared. The figure continued, "You dare cause trouble in my homeland and swallow the right arm of my covenant master." After saying that, she gathered her power into a golden orb. Streaks of light from the orb lashed out at the monster. The orb gradually grew larger. And then with a thump, golden light spread throughout the forest. And then, a faint blue light appeared. I didn't think the influence of Erebos would spread even here. Leo approached the elven girl, gently asking and removing the spider web around her. "Are you alright?" Returning to the present, Leo held his weapon, staring intently at the monster. "Just as I thought. This is the limit if you don't use a field?" He called out to Chelsea. "Use wind magic to blow all the weapons around me." At that moment, the spider attacked Leo again. He jumped back to dodge. Chelsea exclaimed worriedly, "If you move that fast, you will get hurt." Leo, while dodging the monster's attack, reassured Chelsea, "I'll catch them, don't worry, just do it quickly." Chelsea unleashed her power, asking loudly, "Which weapons?" "Any of them." Chelsea sent a sword towards Leo. Based on the sound, he silently guessed. One is a curved short sword. The other is a double-edged longsword. Leo seized the opportunity, jumped up, and accurately caught the two swords as they flew to him. Looking at the monster, "Catch this too." He jumped down, slashing continuously at the monster. Then planted the two swords into it. He kept ordering. Next, understanding his intention, Chelsea continuously flung weapons at Leo, daggers, short swords, axes, whatever he got, he would fling at the monster. The others just stared at Leo battling with the monster. "He looks about our age. But this scene is like a war god in action," Avid muttered. "So, he's not just some low-level thing." After an intense battle, a long scratch appeared on Leo's cheek, and blood seeped out. Leo glanced at the wound and smiled. "I can still feel it. If I can't defeat a bug like this, the others will laugh at me in the other world." Leo gripped his sword, charging again and sticking it into the monster. He signaled to Chelsea again. Next, Chelsea reminded him, "That's the last one." Leo was taken aback. He was so focused on fighting that he hadn't noticed the number of weapons. At this moment, Celia shouted his name. A red light wrapped around her, and she launched a huge blast of fire towards the spider. "How do you like this? You flea of a monster?" The spider writhed in pain in the flames, not knowing where to escape. A moment later, a blue ring fell out. The spider had gone to meet its ancestors. A message appeared. "Albi's world. The opening chapter, the wilderness has been cleared." Celia sighed in relief and sat down. "That's it." She looked at Leo standing quietly. He really did hold that monster for 5 minutes. She praised. "Leo, well done." Chelsea excitedly cheered. "Amazing. Wonderful. You look like a hero in the stories." Her eyes were shining brightly. Leo simply replied indifferently, "Really?" "Yes." Chelsea smiled radiantly. "I want to become a battle mage. So I really want to learn more about close combat. My biggest weakness. Please teach me." Celia smiled mischievously. "I really hope everyone can experience being trained by Leo at least once." Chelsea was confused, not understanding why she was smiling in a way that made people's skin crawl. Leo bent down, picked up the ring, and looked at it in his hand. The dropped item is, "What is this ring?" Suddenly, a golden light flew out of the ring. In the golden orb, a tiny figure appeared. Was it Prince Silid? The prince looked at him very gently. Leo smiled. "Silid, do you still remember me? I am Kyle." The prince smiled brightly, then transformed back into the ring. Leo thought to himself, "It seems he has become the Elf King, thanks to the treasure that Albi found." He received the Mana Eye. A voice echoed from space. The countdown to return from the test area is starting. The space around them gradually shattered, revealing the bright light outside. Time began to count down. 5, 4, 3. Suddenly, a hooded figure appeared in front of him. The reward for passing is the Oath of the Elf King. A few fragments of memories flashed through Leo's mind. His eyes widened as he looked at the person standing in front of him. Leo only had time to open his mouth. You? Then the illusion ended. At this time, in a building, the principal of Lumine Academy and swordsman, Alian Bedian, was looking over a stack of documents. He said to the professor standing next to him, "It seems the exam in the Western Territory has ended." She replied wearily, "It's over? But the other areas still have many people. How many people did Professor Albi pass?" "Oh, if it's Albi, the number should be quite a bit. 40 people passed." The professor sighed. "Is that a lot?" The principal laughed. "Don't be so stressed. I thought there would only be about 10 people." She was sweating. "Oh, I guess Celia or Avid will be at the top. Who got that position? I heard it was very hard to choose." Alian flipped through the documents. "And there is one person nominated to represent the new students." The female professor was surprised. "Professor Albi nominated someone? Celia Zerdinger or Avid Llewellyn? Who is it?" The principal replied, "It's a name I've never heard of before." This answer surprised the professor even more. In the stands, the students were cheering for Celia and Avid to celebrate their achievements. Albi didn't care. He was staring at Leo on the screen. Complex emotions appeared on his face. "I nominate Leo Plog to represent the new students. Discipline of the night department. Reason: has the talent to become a hero." The principal stroked his chin and smiled. "I didn't expect Albi to have such a high opinion of him. I wonder what kind of student he is." After the exam, the students were sent home. Leo was very relaxed, enjoying a moment of peace in the hot bath of his mansion. Pain like this needs to be healed with care and time. That's wonderful. He submerged himself in the water, remembering the face of the stranger. The reward for passing is the oath of the elf king. When you pass the world of a living hero, you normally do not receive any rewards. Yet, somehow, only I received one. Only me. Suddenly, the door opened. Reina entered. "What's the matter, Mom?" Reina suddenly started telling a story. "Leo, do you know why I was expelled from the Zerdinger family?" Leo was puzzled, not understanding why his mother was suddenly telling him this story. Reina continued, "When I saved a comrade, I lost the Zerdinger flame. However, I have never regretted my decision. Leo, I want you to use your strength and talent for what is right. And congratulations on getting into Lumine Academy." She smiled radiantly, giving her son some advice before he left for school. The day of enrollment arrived. As soon as Leo stepped out of the transfer gate to the city of Lumine, an announcement welcomed the new students. "You have arrived in the city of Lumine. Please make sure you have packed all your luggage before leaving the gate." Before Leo's eyes was the magnificent and luxurious city of Lumine, with a clear green river and mountains in the distance. It was worthy of being the central city of the world. Leo looked at a series of majestic castle-like buildings. And that must be the Lumine Academy. As he was admiring the scenery, Guise walked over. "Leo, how has your past month been?" Leo greeted him. "Uncle, congratulations on passing the entrance exam." Guise shook Leo's hand. "Thank you, Uncle. But what brings you here?" "Our family has been in an endless debate for the past month." Guise said. "Do you know why?" Leo guessed. "They have reached a decision about the inheritance of the phoenix breath?" "Exactly," Guise confirmed. "Even though your mother is no longer a member of the family, you are still her son. Not to mention, the elders were very impressed that you passed the notoriously difficult exam in the Western region." Guise pulled out an elaborate golden key from his pocket and gave it to Leo. "This is a subspace key. Open it." Leo placed the key into the air, making the gesture of opening a door. An orange portal appeared in the air, standing between the two of them. In the middle of the door was a book. The light from it so bright that it made Leo's eyes water. The book opened by itself. Inside were only blank pages. Guise instructed, "Put a drop of your blood on the page." Leo bit his hand, then dripped blood onto the page. The light in the book flashed again. This time, strange symbols appeared, and especially, "Now, only you can read this book," Guise said. "Learning the secret technique of the Zerdinger family won't be easy. But I have a feeling that you will master it quickly." Guise smiled, placing his hand on Leo's shoulder. "Congratulations on becoming a member of the Zerdinger family." A little later, in front of a clothing shop in the city, Leo was looking around, wondering, "Is this where Celia is supposed to meet me?" While looking around, he didn't notice that someone was carrying a stack of books coming towards him. As expected, the two of them bumped into each other, and the stack of books fell to the ground. A bespectacled girl with her hair in a bun frantically apologized, picking up the books. After picking them up, she quickly left. Leo noticed a student ID on the ground. He picked it up and looked at it. Chloe Muller, a new student at Lumeran Academy. This was the card of that girl from just now. Leo put the card away and opened the door to step into the clothing shop. Celia was grumbling. "Leo, why are you so late? Uniforms, textbooks, and so many other things to buy." In her hands, at this time, were large bags and small bags. It seemed like she had bought about a dozen bags already. Leo explained, "Sorry, I had to go see Uncle Geese." Celia's eyes lit up. "So, they made a decision? What was the result?" Leo raised his hand, casting a spell, and a small flame burst into his hand. Swish! A pair of fiery wings instantly sprouted from Leo's shoulders. He laughed and pointed at his wings. "Is this how you use it?" Celia was shocked, dropping the bags onto the ground. "Impossible." Leo smiled to himself. "It took me 3 weeks to grasp the feeling with this secret technique." Celia, at this time, was so shocked that she fell to the ground. "Leo, who are you really?" After completing their shopping, Leo and Celia went to the harbor, where the Academy's yacht was waiting to pick up the new students. One person was incredibly awestruck by the grandeur of the ship. At that time, a professor of Lumeran Academy, the Night Glacier, Anelandu, stepped forward, introducing himself. "Welcome new students. I am Professor Anelandu, the head of the new night class. We will be departing for Lumeran now. Everyone, let's board the ship." A little while later, the ship set sail. On the deck, lots of food and drinks had been prepared. The new students were eating and laughing happily. Leo and Celia went to look around. Suddenly, someone called out, "Hey, you two, the couple over there, do you have a moment?" Celia clenched her fists in anger. "A couple? What couple? Who's a couple with this white-haired guy?" The orange-haired guy was still smiling and talking enthusiastically, even introducing himself. "My name is Car Thomas. I'm from the Kingdom of Moira." He handed out business cards to the two of them, proudly introducing himself. "From medicine to weapons, I sell it all. Come see me if you need anything while you're at school." Leo reached out to take the card, thinking to himself, "An interesting kid." Thinking this, Leo politely replied, "It's nice to meet you. I am Leo Plove, from the Kingdom of Dalad." "Dalad?" Car said excitedly. "So you passed the exam in the Western region? Impressive." Suddenly, Leo said, "Anyway, is it just me? Or does this situation feel strange?" Both Car and Celia didn't understand. They asked him, "What do you mean?" Leo explained, "Everything is too peaceful. It feels like something is wrong." Celia thought Leo was overthinking it. A warm welcome for new students who have passed the exam. Isn't that normal? Leo didn't answer, looking at the professor leisurely enjoying wine, looking at the sky and the sea nearby. Car took a bite of his cake and said calmly, "Yeah, there's no reason why they'd be harsh to students before they even enroll." As soon as Car finished speaking, the ship suddenly rocked, causing everyone to startle. Leo was very calm. Everything was going according to what he thought. A giant tentacle emerged from under the sea, slamming into where Car was standing, sending him sprawling on the ground. His face turned pale. What the hell was that? Then he yelled, "Professor Ain, help me." The professor was still very relaxed. "Help you?" He took a sip of wine. "You are all students of the Lumeran Academy. Hero candidates. When you are in danger, you need to overcome it yourselves." At this moment, the giant octopus under the sea also emerged before the new students on the ship. Leo stepped forward, simultaneously dodging the flying dishes while calling out to his friend, "Celia, stay calm." Celia was also preparing to cast fire magic to deal with the monster. "Mind your own business." Right after she spoke, a tentacle sprayed water from behind, drenching Celia. She exclaimed in shock. Leo explained, "That's the natural behavior of a kraken. It reacts to heat by spraying water. This is basic knowledge." Celia fell to the ground, extremely frustrated. A kraken grabbed a student's leg, about to enjoy the meal when Leo and Celia rushed to rescue him. "You damn octopus." Celia jumped up and sliced the tentacle in half. The student was released and fell onto the ship. Leo also jumped up, slicing the octopus's tentacle into pieces that fell onto the deck. Car, who was kneeling nearby, was bewildered. This is the reward for Celia, who got the highest score in the Western region. But what about this Leo guy? What's going on? Another tentacle fell in front of him. But this time it was frozen solid. He scrambled to his feet, grumbling, "Hey, there's a person down here too. Be careful where you slash." Leo looked up at this point. He realized the bespectacled girl with the stack of books was also participating in the battle. Her power was ice magic. At this moment, she was diligently freezing all the monster's tentacles. She glanced back, mocking him. "Why don't you stay in the back if you can't protect yourself?" Carr sighed, replying, "Strong people never care if we get caught up in their battles." As soon as he finished speaking, another lump of tentacle fell right on him, causing him to stumble backwards. The Llewellyn siblings appeared. Avid charged. The competition isn't over yet. Celia Zerdinger. Celia was not to be outdone. Responding, "I feel the same way." Chelsea flew behind them, seeing Leo, and smiled brightly. The professor calmly poured wine, reminding the students, "There are many monsters in the lake leading to the Lumeran Academy. A kraken is the perfect welcome party." He drank his wine, while admiring the intense battle before his eyes. As expected, the team leaders are very prominent. Chen Shaw from the east, Celia Zerdinger and Avid Llewellyn from the west, Chloe Muller from the north, Walden Thaden from the south, and Duran Moira from the center. This year's new students are truly outstanding. Aim tilted his head back, drinking his wine, but the person who has impressed me the most is that anonymous new student. He looked at Leo. His sword technique doesn't have any unnecessary movements. He moves as if he can predict the kraken's actions. I will see him in the night class soon. A while later, the ship reached the shore. The students on board, after experiencing the storm with the monster, stepped off the ship with pale faces. Carr was still lightheaded. "It feels like I've taken all kinds of medicine." Professor Ain jumped from the deck to the pier, saying calmly, "You will have to cross that lake many times, so get used to it quickly. Now, we will move to the enrollment hall." The enrollment ceremony took place quickly at the Electrid training field of Lumeran Academy. The upperclassmen whispered about this year's class. "See? I told you there wouldn't be anyone normal. I hope there will be some interesting people this year." The announcement speaker informed all students. "We will begin the enrollment ceremony now." Professor Ain was standing and giving instructions to the new students. "Line up by region. Those who got high scores, line up at the front of each line." The speaker made another announcement. "The headmaster will say a few words first." Headmaster Kalyan Bedian stood in a dignified manner. "You have come here with the hope of becoming heroes. I have a few words for you." Then he said loudly, "If you dream of becoming a hero, always put yourself first, and overcome your own limits. Those who cannot do that." He swung his hand, punching the podium before him into pieces. Continuing, "Do not belong here." The students were silent, not saying a word. The headmaster, with an embarrassed expression, asked everyone below, "Did I say too much?" The students were startled. Then they hurriedly cheered and shouted loudly to honor the headmaster. The headmaster seemed to want more cheering, so he pouted, "I can't hear you. Cheer again." The professors at the school were speechless. The longer I teach at Lumeran, the more the image of the great swordsman is shattered. A teacher took over the program. Now will be the speech of the new student representative. This year's new student representative is Leo Plove. Please come up to the stage. The name echoed along with disbelief from the new students. Even Leo was taken aback. Leo looked at Professor Albie and saw him smiling. He guessed, "Did the examiner recommend me?" Leo stepped onto the stage, opening the book for the new student representative. Below him, the students were murmuring excitedly. "Leo Plove? I've never heard of that name. Isn't the student representative supposed to be the one with the highest score?" Another person wondered. Leo didn't care much, reading aloud, to the professors and fellow students. "We, the new students, will enroll at Lumeran as proud members of this academy." Leo closed the book. "Thank you." This was the speech of the new student representative, Leo Plove. The teacher leading the program continued. "Thank you, Leo Plove. Now, please tell us your goal in being the new student representative." Leo smiled, thinking, "Do they want me to provoke the people who almost got this position instead of me?" Then, Leo put his hands in his pockets and said, "Hello, I am the new student representative, Leo Plove." The professors in the back praised. This year's new student representative is so well behaved. It seems the enrollment ceremony this year will be quite peaceful. As soon as they finished speaking, Leo's next words caused a shock that echoed across all the realms. "If you want this position, come and take it." The students below were shocked. Some contemplative. The emotions were a mixture of all kinds. Leo said calmly, "No matter who you are." The enrollment ceremony ended, and everyone gradually returned to the academy's dormitories. The professors guided the new students. "You all worked hard today. Starting tomorrow, for about a week, exploratory classes will begin. During this time, whatever major you want to study, you can participate in any class you want. Through this process, you will choose 3 courses to specialize in. That's it. Go to bed early so you won't be late for your first class." Leo stood before room 302, about to open the door when Carr spoke up from beside him. "Leo, our rooms are next to each other. I am very excited for tomorrow. Good night." Leo, "Yeah, see you tomorrow," Leo replied. Entering his room, Leo wearily sprawled on the bed. He closed his eyes, thinking about his plans. "What I want from Lumern is to find something that I hope is here. My heroic chronicle." The next morning, the students gathered in the cafeteria for breakfast. Carr brought a tray of pastries and 3 boxes of milk over to Leo. "Leo, let's eat together." Leo, while leisurely eating, nodded in agreement. Suddenly, a tray of food was slammed down in front of Leo. "Hey, new student representative." Leo, busy chewing, had no idea where this golden-haired guy came from. The team leader of the Central Region, Duran Moira, frowned at Leo. "When you gave your speech yesterday, did you really mean that?" Leo nodded. "It seems like my words yesterday were quite provocative, right?" "Yeah, that's right. If a stranger came and caused trouble like that, it would be nothing to complain about." Duran's brow furrowed. "Don't you know who I am? I'm the team leader of the Central Region." The team leader was showing off. But Carr and Leo were busy enjoying their food, so no one paid any attention to what he said. Duran gritted his teeth angrily. Golden sparks of energy surrounding him. Duran raised his leg and kicked, sending the table and 3 trays full of food flying into the air. Without hesitation, Leo stepped onto a chair, grabbing flying meat, tomatoes, cheese, and bread with both hands. Quick as lightning, when he landed, Leo had a tray of double cheese hamburgers and a box of milk in his hand. Leo smiled. It's unforgivable to waste such precious food. Duran was even angrier. His eyes flashed. "I'll drag you down from that throne right now. I can't stand seeing someone weaker than me acting so arrogant." Suddenly, a hand grabbed both of their shoulders, pulling them close. "We'll see," Professor Ain whispered. "One is the team leader of the Central Region, and the other is the new student representative." The 2 of them were taken aback. When did he get here without either of us noticing? Professor Ain narrowed his eyes, looking at his 2 students, arguing on the first day at Lumern. "Perhaps you 2 are ready for what's to come." A while later, at the exploratory class for the night department, the students gathered in the stadium. Professor Ain stood with his arms crossed, pensively, as if he were waiting for something. A student raised their hand. "Excuse me, Professor? Class is about to start." Celia was worried. Class was about to start, but she hadn't seen Leo anywhere. Suddenly, a hand clutched tightly at the door. Leo and Duran appeared at the same time. Covered in sweat, Celia immediately ran over to ask him, "Leo, what happened? Did you get into a fight?" Leo didn't answer, just glanced at Duran, who was biting his lip and frowning. The professor spoke up. "So, everyone is here. Let's start class. Welcome, new students. I am Ain Elandiu, head of the first-year night class." Duran turned to look at Leo, his eyes shooting fierce lightning bolts. Carr watched, extremely excited. "Oh, they've started a large-scale psychological war?" The professor continued to explain the course content. 3 powers from mana, magical energy, spiritual energy, and the field. Among them, the field is the most difficult to control. Does anyone know why? Celia answered. Because the field reduces the flexibility of mana during the transformation process. The professor was satisfied. Correct. While magical energy and spiritual energy use mana in its natural state, the field absorbs mana and processes it to suit the body. Now, can anyone explain how we use the accumulated field in our bodies? Ain summoned a field around his body to give an example. Celia also tried with her field, pondering. Isn't it just about using a little force and it will come out? Leo spoke up. We use the power of the field by burning mana. Ain smiled. Correct. So, do you know what is the most important thing when burning mana? Duran, still out of breath, answered pantingly. Endurance. The professor came in front of Leo. Impressive. Plove, have you ever learned about the field before? I have not, Leo replied. Ain thought to himself. And yet, someone who hasn't learned correctly about the field can grasp its nature. Thinking this, he said, well then, let's set aside the theory for now. How about we move our bodies a bit? The professor stepped into the air, and a strong wind blew. With each step the professor took, a thin layer of field appeared. Ain calmly climbed the stairs made of the field to the admiration of his students. This is the field step. The basic principle is to concentrate the power of the field on your feet. And, he jumped back down to the ground. Its applications are limitless. After that, the students began practicing the field step very diligently. On one side, another group of students were practicing swordsmanship. Celia activated her fire field, proudly telling Leo, I'll show you how to do it. If you call me big sister. Leo coldly turned his back. No need. The operational principles of the field are not that different. Ain and Duran simultaneously heard this. Duran bit his nails, frowning as he looked at Leo. Suddenly, Ain smiled, then clapped his hands. Attention. As you know, there was a bit of a disturbance this morning. Chelsea was surprised. What is he talking about? Carr seized the opportunity, whispering into her ear. There was something. No kidding. I'm serious. Ain called out their names. Come here. Duran. Leo. He leaned close to Duran. Duran Moira, what made you so angry? Duran turned his face away. I'm not angry. The professor frowned and stood up straight. Then take it to the field. Team leader of the Central Region. Duran Moira. And the new student representative. Leo Plove. Will have a one-on-one race to decide who the representative of the class will be. In this match, you can use the field without any restrictions. Hearing the conditions, Duran was slightly startled. A moment later, Carr brought over a board divided into 2 columns. Alright, place your bets. The genius of the Moira family and the descendant of a hero. Duran Moira, the master of the lightning field, and the dark horse from the suburbs. The mysterious person who defeated the team leaders of every region and became the new student representative. Leo Plove. The 2 of them were at the starting line. The surrounding students were discussing. I mean, he's the new student representative, so he has to show something, right? Another was skeptical. From what I saw when he was talking to Celia Zerdinger, it seems like he can't even use the field step, right? And did you hear what he did yesterday? I can't stand that guy. Becoming the team leader of the Central Region isn't something that just anyone can do. On the other hand, this new student representative hasn't proven anything. Ain laughed, very excited about the race. Alright, whoever reaches the finish line first wins. Whoever wins, you have to accept the result politely. That's what we call the spirit of a knight. Ready, take your positions. Celia silently guessed. To be honest, Leo probably won't win, but that guy, he always knows how to exceed everyone's expectations. A yellow aura surrounded Duran. He frowned, determined, while Leo had no clear expression. The signal was given, and the 2 of them shot forward, starting an incredibly intense race. Duran yelled, I'm going first, newbie. Duran dashed forward, showing a clear advantage. The students in the class applauded in admiration. Wow, just as expected from Duran. So cool. And the first-year representative. They looked at the weak field under Leo's feet. Unbelievable. He's really terrible. Another student crossed their arms and sighed. Just as I predicted, that guy being the representative is a scam. It's unacceptable. Chelsea shouted loudly. Leo, you can do it. Duran was still doing very well on the track. Carr, standing outside the field, was also worried. Duran is halfway there already. Leo, running behind, suddenly looked to the side. Then he stopped for about 3 seconds. Then changed direction, running off the track. Celia was astonished. Did you see that? Leo activated a red field under his feet, then jumped up onto the stands a few times. Observing Duran's path, Leo stamped his foot, the force cracking the ground beneath him. Then he launched himself towards Duran with incredible speed. While flying, he smiled at Duran. I'm going first, you tortoise. Duran's face blanked as he watched his opponent zoom past him. After crossing the finish line, Leo landed, skidding and creating sparks on the ground. Duran, running behind, was still in shock. Obviously, the students watching were just as bewildered. They stammered, "Did you see that? This is no joke. Duran was supposed to be the fastest of all the first-year students. I can't believe he lost. But I'm sure he's never learned the field step." Celia recognized the power that Leo was using. "That's not the field step. That's the Phoenix step." Carr and Chelsea were overjoyed. Leo won. Carr cheered. "Wow, Leo, you're so good." Professor Ain, watching, made his deductions. Duran used his trademark lightning field to increase his speed. "I expected that, but that speed was remarkable." Meanwhile, although Leo Plove was slower, he was better at controlling his power. He concentrated all of his fire field on his feet and created a formidable aura step. "That's an excellent application." Leo stepped forward and held out his hand to shake Duran's. "Great match, Duran. If it were a long-distance race, the result might have been different." Duran frowned, brushing past Leo. "Get lost." Professor Ain looked at his two students. "In the current generation, perhaps a hero will finally appear." Chelsea was enthusiastic. "Leo, you're so amazing. I want to train with you too." Carr, frustrated, grumbled to Celia, "But why is Chelsea so infatuated with him and not me? She should pay attention to me too." Celia said dismissively, "Well, that's obvious." Carr put on a magnanimous expression. "Anyway, now that class is over, let's go to the coffee shop. I'll treat today." Leo refused. "Sorry, but you all go ahead." After saying that, Leo turned and walked straight into the academy, leaving everyone behind in bewilderment. Carr called after him, "Where are you going?" "I'm going to listen to the summoning class." Leo replied nonchalantly, "What? A student from the swordsman department is going to listen to the summoning class?" Celia sighed. "I don't understand what he's thinking anymore." Leo ambled towards the summoning class, deep in thought. "There's one thing I still don't understand. Why did the Elf King give me the oath as a reward?" Rewards from a hero's world are related to the power of the world's master. The reward I received is related to summoning. But Professor Albie is a pure mage, with nothing to do with summoning. Normally, I would receive a skill related to magic. Furthermore, to form a covenant with a spirit, I had to go to the spirit realm. Right now, it's useless. While he was deep in thought, suddenly a voice came from behind. "So, you're listening to the summoning class too?" Leo turned around, recognizing this classmate. It was the team leader of the East, Chen Shaw. Shaw smiled, greeting him. "It's nice to meet you." "Leo, it's nice to meet you." "Chen Shaw," Leo replied politely. Shaw said in a friendly tone, "Just call me Shaw. I'm sure you are a student of the swordsman department. But I didn't expect that you would also be interested in summoning." Leo explained, I'm interested in spiritual studies." Shaw was enthusiastic. "Then we will meet often. Can you tell me which spirit you formed a covenant with?" Shaw asked. "Summoning a water spirit." "Leo, show me your spirit too." "Okay," Leo replied. "I haven't formed a covenant yet." Shaw offered enthusiastically. "Really? Then, if you need help later, just call me. I will give you some advice on summoning spirits." Leo was grateful. "I'll ask you for help. But how old are you?" Shaw smiled. "I'm 17. "Leo, you're 15, right? I saw you talking to Celia." Leo thought to himself, 17? She really looks younger than her age. Even younger than Chelsea. Shaw saw Leo being silent, staring at her, and teased, "You just thought something rude, didn't you?" Leo looked away, denying it immediately without even thinking. Shaw laughed, saying, "But anyway, Leo, I was really impressed by your battle with Duran." Leo asked in return, "Oh, you saw it?" "Yes," Shaw confirmed. She paused for a moment, then suggested, "One day, please accept my challenge." Leo smiled. Of course. The answer made Shaw very happy. A little later, the two of them had arrived at a hilltop where the class was taking place. There were already several students waiting there. Two prominent faces were the team leader of the South, Walden Thaden, and Eliza Hergen. Leo wondered, is this all the people in this class? Shaw laughed. That's right, summoning isn't a popular choice. And this is just an exploratory class. Leo observed the surrounding area. The weather today was quite cool. Very suitable for an outdoor class. But it's surprising that the class is being held here. As soon as he finished speaking, a large gust of wind rose. making everyone a bit startled. A black dragon suddenly landed on the ground from the sky. Someone exclaimed, "A black dragon? Where did it come from?" The black dragon stretched its head out, sniffing a nearby student, causing them to fall back in fear. Suddenly, a voice came from the dragon. "It's doing that because it likes you, kid." Yura jumped down from the dragon's back, introducing herself. "It's nice to meet you. First-year students, my name is Yura Marin. I'm the summoning teacher who will guide you this coming school year." The first-year students stared at the sexy teacher in front of them, their jaws dropping, each secretly wishing to become her familiar. Leo couldn't take his eyes off the teacher either. He thought to himself, she has a different kind of beauty compared to Luna and Lycena's. I can't help but feel excited. He thought of his friend from his previous life. If Dueno was here, he would surely go crazy. After letting her pet rest under the shady trees and having the students line up neatly, Yura began the class. "Alright, new recruits. The fact that you're here shows you have some talent in summoning, right?" The students replied in unison. Yes. Yura was satisfied. "Very good. A loud and clear answer. We will now move to the practical area," she called out. "Carlo." Suddenly, several griffins appeared before everyone. These were creatures with the face of a falcon, the ears of a fox, the body of a lion, and wings that were one white and one brown. The first-year teaching assistant, Carlo, was petting one of them. He turned to assign the students. "You will go in groups of 2. Go ahead and ride the griffins." The assigned student was very confused. "Professor, this is our first time riding a griffin." Yura glared, her eyes flashing golden light. "Then aren't you saying that you don't want to listen to my lesson?" She jumped onto the black dragon, turning to look at the students. "If you think you can't do it, then go back now." The black dragon took off, a hurricane-like wind blowing up, causing everyone to cover their faces. Carlo was sweating, urging everyone, "Come on, everyone, hurry up and follow the professor." The students reluctantly approached the griffins. At first, they seemed ferocious, but as they got closer, they were very gentle and friendly. The frightened student from before approached and petted the creature, exclaiming, "It's much gentler than I thought." Some were more individualistic, grabbing one student by his shirt, making him pale in fear. Shaw came close to Leo. "Hey Leo, can I hold the reins of the griffin?" Leo was about to climb on, and when he heard that, he turned around and said, "Okay, hold it for as long as you want." A moment later, the griffins, carrying the students, flew behind Yura's black dragon. The team flew quickly over the sea, creating a very lively scene. The students went from being frightened to very excited. "I can't believe I'm riding a griffin. This is the Lumern standard for sure. Hey, switch with me. I want to try flying too," one person suggested. "Oh, just wait a little longer," the other person bargained. Shaw was also enjoying the experience. "I was also a bit worried, but it's gentler than I thought." Leo reminded her, "But you should still be careful. Griffins are a difficult summon to control for beginners." Shaw wondered, "But they're so gentle, though?" "That's because." Before Leo could finish, a deafening whistle blew. The griffins, upon hearing it, all went crazy, roaring loudly and starting to fly erratically. The students were in a panic. They're not listening anymore. Why did they suddenly act like this? "Professor, please help us. They were listening to you just now." A distance away, Professor Yura crossed her arms, looking at the students. "Do you think you're worthy of being students of Lumern Academy without knowing how to control a griffin? Control them yourselves." Shaw was just as panicked because she couldn't control her griffin. Leo took the reins, then pulled his friend close to him in order to control the creature, making Shaw's face flush red. She stammered, "Leo, what are you doing?" Unlike Shaw, Leo didn't think too much, explaining to her, "Griffins have a very high sense of pride, so if you use force to suppress them, they will become even more rebellious." Leo held the reins, skillfully controlling the griffin. He smiled. "Let's go." Immediately, the griffin shot forward, regaining its disciplined and obedient behavior as if it had never gone crazy. Yura also noticed. "Well then, not bad at all." She turned to ask Carlo, "Hey, the first-year representative is a candidate for the night department, right?" Carlo looked through a stack of papers, confirming, "That's right. So does he have his own griffin at home? How is he so good at riding them?" Yura wondered. "No, Carlo replied. "He doesn't come from a noble family that has griffins." Yura stroked her chin, smiling. "So it's pure talent, huh? It seems we've just found a gem." A while later, the team arrived at the summoning island, the practical area for the summoning department. The students climbed off the backs of the griffins. Some sprawled out on the sand, others vomiting. Leo calmly walked to a nearby orange tree. A fruit on it caught his eye. Leo quietly assessed its size, then picked it, surprised to see a feather on it. At that moment, Shaw climbed down as well, asking him curiously, "What's the matter, Leo?" Leo took the feather off, shaking his head. "It's nothing." Then Leo turned and fed the orange to the griffin, and the creature happily accepted it. At this moment, Professor Yura shouted loudly, "Stop dawdling and focus." When all the students had gathered, the professor began to explain. "From now on, you will do a practical test." The group was confused. "What? A practical test on the first day? But this is just a trial period. Why a test?" Yura frowned, saying, "Compared to the other two departments, the path we must take is much longer. Is there anyone here who doesn't know that? For the summoning department, just knowing how to control mana is not enough. To form a contract with a spirit, you need harmony with the spirit. And to control your summons, you need the ability to tame them. This is why the number of hero summoners is much smaller than the other two departments. However, compared to other heroes, summoners who reach the top achieve more feats. Isn't that why you came here? Wanting to become that kind of hero?" A voice rang out. "That's right. So, what's the test?" The person who asked was Eliza Hergin, from the famous hero summoning family of the north, the Hergin family. Yura replied, "This island is called Summoning Island. As the name suggests, it is full of summoning creatures. Since summons are a form of weapon for summoners, the test will assess your taming ability. The content of the test is very simple. Tame a summoned creature in this forest and bring it back. After taming it and forming a contract, that creature will belong to you." The students cheered excitedly, running into the forest at once. "This is great. This is definitely Lumeran Academy." As Leo was preparing to go into the forest, Eliza called out to him, "So, you're the first-year representative?" Leo turned around. She smiled at him. "Rumor has it that you defeated Duran. What can I expect from you in the summoning class?" Shaw and Walden silently watched this scene. Leo turned his back, replying, "I'm just trying my best." Seeing Leo's attitude, Eliza frowned, wondering about something. Professor Yura, seeing this scene, thought to herself, "It seems these people will be the key players in the first year." In the forest at this time, some had already chosen their summoning targets. One person chose a gentle deer, while another petted a white fox. Leo quietly passed by, then went deeper into the forest. A few people saw him, whispering to each other, "Oh, that's the first-year representative. But he's going too deep into the forest." Some didn't care. Whatever. If he fails at taming and gets a 0, he will surely go back to the night department. Does he think summoning is that easy? As Leo walked, he took the feather he had found on the orange. After looking at it for a while, suddenly, flames burst out from the feather, surrounding it. Leo smiled. "Haha, just as I thought. This is..." At this moment, a light burst out behind Leo, causing him to pause for about 5 seconds. At this time, on a quiet island, a sizzling sound was very attractive. Fried eggs and bacon on the frying pan exuded a fragrant, mouth-watering aroma. Will Leo be okay? Reina worriedly thought about her son. A person put a plate of food down on the table, reassuring her, "It's only his first day of school." "Reina." The person gave her a glass of water. "You're already worried about the kid?" Reina hummed noncommittally. A mother's intuition made her feel restless for some unknown reason. Then she reassured herself, "Nothing will happen, right?" At this moment, a huge flame burst out in front of Leo, causing him to cover his eyes. Leo was astonished. This intense heat, could it be one of the 3 great summons? A phoenix? From within the flames, a voice rang out, "Just a child of Lerdinger? I smell Reina's fire." Leo, covering his eyes, asked, "Do you know my mother?" "Your mother? Then I guessed right." The fire phoenix continued, "That's right. If she had a child, they would be around your age. Do I know your mother?" "Of course, I do. I owe Reina a lot." Then it introduced itself to Leo. "My name is Farina, child of Reina." Leo politely replied, "Hello, Phoenix Farina. My name is Leo Plove. What's your relationship with my mother? You said you owed her. Farina explained. Reyna saved the life of my summoner. Ellen Lunda. Leo was startled. Isn't that the name of the hero Ellen Lunda? The phoenix continued. Ellen was exploring a dungeon in Siren. She had lost all of her comrades and was in a dangerous situation. Then your mother came and saved her. And in that process, Reyna lost her burning field. Without that, Reyna would have surely reached the position of a hero. Leo thought of his mother for a moment. He said, my mother said she didn't regret what she did that day. The phoenix smiled. Haha, that's right, she was that kind of knight. Leo looked up, asking Farina, but why are you at Lumern? Farina? I can't tell you. The phoenix replied, asking him back, but aren't you a knight? What are you doing on this island? Leo explained right away, I'm also taking the summoning class. The phoenix was slightly startled. What? It seemed to see another figure within Leo's body. It laughed. Haha, how interesting. This is fate. Leo Plove, I can finally repay the debt of gratitude to your mother. Reach out your hand and take this. Leo. Farina gave him a small flame. The flame gradually disappeared, revealing a golden egg. It said, this is my child. One day, when you become a great summoner, I hope you will form a contract. It's a shame for the summoner who is supposed to receive it. Leo looked at the elaborate golden egg and asked the phoenix, can I do it now? Farina's eyes widened. She hurriedly advised Leo, what? It's too early. You might die. Stop. Leo's whole body was bursting into flames at this time. Farina knew it was too late to stop him, so she left Leo to carry out the contract. She praised Leo. Your willingness to challenge the impossible without flinching reminds me of Reyna. I wish you luck. The golden egg floated in the air, with a small flame radiating around it. Leo approached, reaching out to touch it. Instantly, a large flame burst out, surrounding him and the small egg. Leo was sweating, his face grimacing. The heat is making it impossible for me to breathe. This is the phoenix flame. To create a powerful flame by burning the body. Leo held up a hand that was charred from the heat of the flame, trying to touch the egg. The phoenixes, endure this pain every day. A creature that lives by eternally regenerating its burned flesh. I understand your pain, and I will share it with you. Leo stretched out his arms, standing still in the flames. A moment later, the egg was in Leo's hand. The egg suddenly cracked, flying towards the phoenix. Farina asked, did you succeed? Leo wiped the sweat pouring down his forehead. I did it. The phoenix smiled brightly, satisfied. You're a genius. Leo Plove. Then it transformed into a human, with flames still flaring around it. The egg was floating in the air, gradually cracking. The phoenix continued, you will become the greatest summoner in the world. Congratulations on successfully forming a covenant. The egg had completely broken, and a ray of light flashed. Farina raised the small phoenix chick, tiny in her palm, introducing it to Leo. This little one's name is Fiora. I trust you with my child. Leo looked at the small thing in Farina's hand, quietly assessing it. But is this really a phoenix? It looks too much like a chicken. At this moment, the small thing tilted its head, its eyes sparkling as it looked at Leo. Chirping twice, Leo held his head. Hey, chirping like that makes you a chicken for sure. Outside the forest, Professor Yura was watching the students' achievements. She praised a female student's summoned creature. A wombat. How cute. Then she turned and asked the teaching assistant. Carlo, what time is it? Carlo announced. 5 minutes left. Only 4 people left. A loud noise attracted Yura's attention. She turned around and saw a blue-eyed bear rushing toward her. Chen Xia, with a sooty face, poked her head out from on the bear's back. Professor, are you not done yet? Yura praised. You tamed a baby water bear as a trainee knight? Impressive. A shadow enveloped Xia, making her look up. Walden, standing on the foot of a giant crow, landed in a cool fashion. Yura was impressed, admiring. A shadow raven. That's a spirit that even the famous summoning families find hard to tame. Walden humbly said, I haven't formed a contract yet. Yura replied, that's good enough. More than enough. In fact, at this moment, Eliza appeared, sitting haughtily on the head of a giant white snake. Amazing everyone, the girl said. I formed a contract right away because my family didn't have this one yet. A Gorgon snake. Amazing. Carlo announced. Professor, Time's up, and the last student is coming." Hearing that, everyone turned to look at Leo, who was walking out of the forest leisurely. All eyes were focused on the small, red, fluffy thing on his head. Then they burst into laughter. "Ha, what is that? Did he tame a chicken? What an idiot. Ha ha. He must have given up after realizing he's not good at summoning." Only Professor Yura was startled, thinking to herself, "No way, you fool. That's a phoenix." After arriving back at the academy, Leo adjusted his clothes. Then he knocked on a door. "Come in," Yura said. Leo entered and saw the professor leaning against the table, waiting. She was looking over some information on a paper. Leo spoke. "I heard you were looking for me." Yura had taken off her outer coat at this time. She smiled at Leo. "Come on, sit down." Leo prepared to sit down in a chair. The professor spoke again. "Do you know, Leo? That was the first time I saw a baby phoenix. I didn't actually know that there was a phoenix on Summoning Island. And a new student formed a contract with a phoenix. This has never happened before in the history of the academy." Leo was startled, realizing Yura's suspicious gaze. "Professor?" he asked. Yura leaned her hands on the table, frowning as she looked at her student. "I know who you really are. Leo Plove." Leo was stunned, silently waiting for an answer from the professor. Suddenly, she ran over and hugged Leo tightly. In his shock and bewilderment, "You're a summoning genius, an unprecedented genius. I want to praise what you have achieved. But I think that your contract with the Phoenix should be kept a secret for now. If we reveal it now, things will get noisy." She put her hand on Leo's shoulder. "On the day the trial classes end, make sure to choose summoning as your major. You have the talent to become a hero summoner remembered throughout the ages." The sun had set. Chloe was walking in the hallway, yawning widely. At this moment, Car and Leo walked over. Car laughed loudly. "Haha, your mouth is about to tear. Chloe, you look tired." Chloe was startled, turning around to explain, "Because I stayed up late reading magic books." Leo put his hands in his pockets, asking her, "You're Chloe Muller, right?" Leo took out a student ID card. Looking at the card, Chloe suddenly remembered the person she had bumped into while preparing to board the ship for enrollment. She hesitantly took the card, saying, "So it was you. Thank you, new student representative." At this point, the three of them were standing in front of the magic class. Pushing the door open, Chloe turned to ask Leo, "But hey, Leo? It seems you're going to attend the magic class too." Leo said, "Because we're still in the trial period. I want to attend as many classes as possible." Chloe admired him. "Amazing. I'm only interested in magic. So I'm only attending this class." The three of them pulled out chairs to sit. Car whispered to Leo, "The Ice Queen is aiming for the top of the magic department. Her name is Chloe Muller." Chloe glared at Car. He was startled and stood up, laughing awkwardly. "Oops. It's so cold in here. Isn't it? I think I'll move to the back end." Car was about to leave when a huge ice pillar blocked his way, making him freeze. Chloe slammed her hand on the table and stood up, coldly pulling Car. "Hey Car, follow me to the front row. It seems like you're interested in the class, so I'll help you." Car struggled, pleading with Leo for help. Leo sighed, looking at his friend sympathetically. Suddenly, a voice called out to Leo from behind. He turned around, finding the Llewellyn siblings sitting behind him. Seeing Leo turn around, the two of them waved and smiled friendly. Leo was taken aback. Before he could regain his composure, the door burst open, and Professor Len Orr, the first-year magic professor at Lumeran Academy, stepped in. "It's a pleasure to meet you all. Everyone attending the magic class. I will be teaching you magic this year. My name is Len Orr." This was a famous, talented, and handsome young professor at the academy. The female students blushed and swooned at the sight of him. The professor placed his hand on a stack of papers, saying, "Before we start today's trial class," he snapped his fingers, and papers flew neatly to the students. "You will do a magic theory test." The students complained, "Huh? A test on the first day of the trial class?" Professor Len replied coldly, "That's right. Students who do not meet a certain standard cannot attend my class." Before the students could get over their surprise, Len summoned an hourglass, then said, "If you are Lumeran students, this level should be standard. When you finish the test, submit it to my assistant." Anna, sitting nearby, raised her hand, telling everyone, "Submit your tests to me." Everyone. Leo finished reading the paper. Not understanding a thing. Is this really the current trend of magic? Why is the formula so complicated? Time passed. The class was silent, with only the rustling of pens on paper. When the time was up, everyone submitted their tests and started discussing. The test was easier than I thought. Yeah, but what was the answer to the last question? I solved everything except that one. Leo thought to himself in frustration. I only solved one question. He hesitantly submitted his paper to Anna. I should have studied more about modern magic before coming here. Leo opened the door, leaving the class. I should study magic on my own. Time was up, the professor said to the students. Over the last 100 years, magic seems to have developed greatly. Magic that once required perfect understanding, now only needs to memorize activation conditions. The professor snapped his fingers again, and the graded papers flew back to the students. Everyone looked at their scores in shock. Most scores were very low. Len spoke loudly. However, this development has reduced the overall level of mages. He raised his hand, summoning a huge magic circle, looking both magical and surreal. The students were both excited and admiring as they looked at the circle. Len said, "This is the essence of magic that I have created. I created it from the end to the beginning. I want you to become people capable of researching and creating your own magic. That is why I gave you this test. 49 questions, 1 point each, based on simple memorization, and the last question, worth 51 points, analyzing the true nature of magic. I hope all of you here will become mages capable of solving it." Chelsea clicked her tongue. It's no surprise that it was the only question I couldn't solve. She looked at Leo's seat, seeing only the test paper left there. Leo gave up already? She was slightly sad. I really wanted to take the magic class with him. What a pity. Suddenly, Anna ran over and whispered to Len, "Professor, there's a student who solved question 50. Len paused, then laughed loudly. "Who is it, among you? There is someone who has achieved a perfect score for the first time in history." He looked around the class excitedly. "Please, stand up. Who is it?" Anna corrected him. "He didn't get a perfect score. Professor." Len was still very eager. "Really? It seems that a few other questions were skipped because he spent too much time solving the last one. That's a bit of a shame. But it's good too. Come on up." Anna explained further. "That's not it. He only solved the last question." Len stopped smiling, asking his assistant, "What's his name?" "It's student Leo Plove, Professor." Len looked around the class. "Student Leo Plove, please stand up." The students below also turned around looking for Leo. "It seems that he's not here. Where did he go?" Chelsea raised her hand, saying, "Student Leo left after finishing the test." "Professor." "What?" The professor was shocked. On Leo's desk was just his test paper. Score 51. Speaking of Leo, after leaving the class, he went to the cafeteria to eat ice cream with Celia. After hearing the story, she laughed. "So you left after only solving one question? A little chicken in the summoning class and only solving one question in the magic class. Leo, do you realize you're doing something wrong? If you're a student specializing in knights, you should be focusing on your swordsmanship." Leo nodded, enjoying his delicious ice cream. "Then do you want to train endurance with me?" Celia hesitated. "Well, that's a bit." Suddenly, a voice came from behind Leo. "So that's why you're a student specializing in knights. Are you Leo Plove, the one who looked down on my class?" Leo turned around, recognizing Professor Len. The professor stared at him. "Why did you leave after only solving one question? Were they too easy so you thought it wasn't worth answering?" Leo quickly stood up to correct him. "Professor, it seems there's a misunderstanding. I don't think I passed the test." Len was stunned for the first time. "What? Professor, all the questions except the last one were too difficult, so I couldn't solve any of them." Len was stunned for the second time. "What are you saying?" Leo patiently explained further. "I'm self-taught in magic by reading ancient magic books, so I'm not sure about any modern questions." Professor Len was stunned for a moment, then eagerly hoisted Leo up. To the astonishment of both Leo and Celia, his eyes shone brightly. He said to Leo, "Follow me for a moment." Len happily carried Leo away, leaving Celia still wondering what had happened. "Is that the theory of magic professor at Lumern Academy? That man is rather strange." At this moment, Anna hurriedly ran over, out of breath, asking Celia, "Have you seen Professor Len?" Celia? Or is there anything strange happening? Celia replied, he was just here, but he suddenly grabbed Leo and dragged him away. Hearing this, Anna hurriedly ran off again, grinding her teeth. Oh my god, that madman, what's he going to do this time? In the classroom, Len hurriedly erased all the old test problems and wrote a series of new ones. Turning to say to Leo, solve these problems, student Leo. Leo calmly picked up the chalk and wrote. Professor Len watched, thinking to himself, if he didn't solve the last question by pure luck, then he must have his own magic system in his head. Show it to me now. I will understand your true nature. Before he could finish thinking, Leo turned around and said, I've solved them all. Len was stunned for the third time. Huh? You solved all these questions in your head? Yeah, something like that. The professor's eyes shone brightly, as if he had found a treasure. Finally, scene change. Professor Albie was walking leisurely in the hallway when he suddenly saw Professor Len running towards him from afar. A smile of excitement on his face and sparkling eyes. A chill ran down Albie's spine, making him shudder. He hurriedly turned around to leave, but Professor Len had already managed to grab his leg, hugging it. Professor Albie, thank you so much. Without saying anything, Albie cast a spell, suspending Len upside down from the ceiling, saying, this is not the first time I've seen you act so impulsively. But you've gone too far today. Len was hanging upside down, but his mouth was still grinning, unable to close. He's a magic genius. Leo Plove, the student you nominated to be the new student representative, is a genius. Albie paused. Magic? Isn't he a knight? Professor Len ignored his image, wriggling frantically. No, Leo must become a mage at all costs. I will not let his talent be wasted on swinging those pieces of metal. At this moment, Anna ran over, catching the professor as he fell from the ceiling. Len was still yelling. Sending him to the night department is an insult to the field of magic. Albie said coldly to Anna, take him away, he's too noisy. After Anna caught him, Len put on a bright smile. Thank you, Anna. Anna trembled violently, trying to swallow the madness rising within her. We really need to go back to class. Professor, she thought, one day, I'm going to kill this lunatic. He just does whatever he feels like. Albie heard footsteps behind him and turned around. Seeing it was Leo, he smiled at him, then turned his head, thinking to himself, mages never change with time. They're all lunatics. A week later, the trial classes were over. Leo was sprawled out on the rooftop, reading his heroic chronicle about Kyle, his past life. The book was titled, Kyle, the Original Hero, Is Really a Cheat? Leo read for a while, then closed the book, sat up and looked at the academy's garden, not knowing what he was thinking. At this time, there was a thundering of footsteps in the hallway leading to the headmaster's office. The door swung open, and the headmaster looked up. It was the three professors. Ain of the Night Department, Yura of the Summoning Department, and Len of the Magic Department. Professor Ain held up a form, asking the headmaster, this is unbelievable. Headmaster, please look at this. The form was Leo Plove's class registration, and he had filled in all three majors. Behind them, Len and Yura were glaring at each other, their eyes shooting sparks. Leo must come to my department, they said in unison. Ain was sweating but still wanted to correct them. No, he must come to the night department. Wait, that's not my problem. This has never happened in the history of the Hero Academy. He must focus all his energy on one major. The headmaster stroked his beard, laughing. He didn't pay attention to the battle going on. Ho ho, let me see. This reminds me of that fictional hero. Hearing this, the three of them paused their battle, turning in unison to ask, what? The headmaster stood up slowly. The fifth great hero, also known as the original hero, Kyle. He was the only person to have mastered all classes in history. The battle in the headmaster's office was so loud, but the practice field was just as noisy. Celia and Chelsea were both breathing heavily, trying to run. Leo was sitting relaxing under a tree. Car came over, wondering, oh my god, why are they training on the weekend? Leo said, Chelsea asked me to train her. Car was still curious, so why are they just running? Where are their weapons? Leo replied indifferently, there's something more important than weapons. It's Celia, having finished running, looked like she was about to die. She still tried to answer. It's our endurance, Chelsea added. Endurance is the most important aspect of a battle mage. That's why we're jogging. Move over. Car, let me sit down and rest. Leo handed Celia a bottle of water. She propped herself up on her thighs, breathing heavily, while Chelsea sat with her back to Carl, smiling at Leo. It's great to jog on the weekend. I missed this feeling. I want to jog with you too. Leo. Celia choked on her water, spitting it all out. Chelsea's face showed clear disgust. Gross. Celia, what's wrong with you? Leo looked at Celia, teasing. Anyway, I was planning on running with you, too. We had to do it properly. Celia was extremely annoyed. She bristled. Hey, I said I don't want to run with you. Car turned to ask, what's going on between the two of you? Why are you so close? I thought you two were dating. Celia frowned, correcting him. Oh my god, he's my relative, my aunt's son on my father's side. Car and Chelsea were very surprised. You're a Zerdinger? Celia had to explain. Not exactly. There are some family circumstances. But, forget it. Leo stood up, saying to the two girls. Okay, should we start being serious? Celia was startled, while Chelsea cheered happily. Okay, let's go. Car turned around, excitedly saying, then I will go explore Lumern City. Celia's face turned pale as she was dragged across the ground by Leo. She could only call out hopelessly. Car, take me with you. Car could only watch, forcing a bitter smile. Why don't I have any decent nobles in my life? In a flash, it was the day of class assignments. Everyone was gathered, chatting excitedly. Car saw Leo standing at the door of class 1 to 5. Waving and calling, Leo, over here. Leo, with his hands in his pockets, approached his friend. You already know you're in class 5? There's nothing I don't know. Car laughed. Leo looked around the class, seeing that Chelsea was slumped over the table, exhausted. Chelsea's here too, although she was very tired. Chelsea, hearing Leo's voice, forced herself to reply. Yeah. Car was confused. What did you do to her on the weekend? Leo replied nonchalantly. Just the basics. Chelsea groaned. Never doing that again. That was enough torture. Suddenly, two upperclassmen looked in, sneering. Oh wow. So this is class 5. The class of suffering? I wonder how many of you will be left after the first semester. You poor juniors. Condolences. While they were laughing, a voice rang out from behind them, making them freeze. Poor? I think you two are even more pathetic. Do you agree? The two upperclassmen turned pale, their faces going stiff. The face before them, with a scruffy beard and messy hair like a homeless person, was Professor Herod Edmund, the homeroom teacher of class 1 to 5 at Lumern Academy, also known as the Wailing Wall, glaring at the two of them. Then, he said a single word. Chairs. Immediately, the two upperclassmen put their hands on the floor, bent their bodies, forming the shape of chairs. The professor calmly approached, sat on them, and said in a calm voice, Hello, you useless scraps. This is the class for failures with the lowest scores among all the new students. You've probably heard rumors about me. Wailing Wall. Is there anyone here who knows why I chose to be the homeroom teacher for this class? Carr volunteered to answer. Is it to help us improve our scores? Herod coldly replied. Carl Thomas. A typical answer from someone at the bottom. Do none of you in this pathetic class understand the duty of a Lumern Academy student? Chelsea answered. It is to conquer the hero world through real-world tasks. Herod was satisfied. That's right. That's it. But all I see are people who will die as soon as they step into the hero world. The entire class turned pale. The professor continued. It's better to expel the pathetic creatures who only hinder their comrades and die before their time. That's why I decided to take over class 5. And why I'm called the Wailing Wall. While the students were whispering, Herod noticed the white-haired student, Leo Plove, who still looked indifferent, as if nothing was happening. He thought to himself, that student might survive. Then he said to the whole class, everyone, change into your gym clothes and go to the practice field. It's time for combat class. Outside in the stadium, everyone lined up neatly. Herod opened an umbrella, took out a chair, and sat leisurely under the umbrella, drinking milk, explaining to the students, let's start this class, where we will correct the rotten minds you have developed since entering Lumern Academy. What do you think will save you in real life? Where life comes and goes so easily. Nella Carvin, Major in Knights. Special note. healing aura attribute, spoke up, answering, "Isn't it my comrades who will protect me?" The professor said, "No, it's your ability. Only when you hone your skills, making them shine through all dangers, can you begin to help your comrades. But are you confident in your ability to protect your comrades?" Nella raised her hand. "I am confident, Professor Herod," the professor said calmly. "Oh, then let's test your ability as a magic knight. Shall we? Create a fireball." Eliana, her red-haired classmate, Eliana Layden, double majoring in knights and magic, confidently created a fireball in her hand. Herod was not pleased. "Is that all? With that fireball, I doubt you can even kill an ant." Eliana smiled. "If I add some magic power here." Boom! Two extremely large fireballs that Eliana created caused everyone to cheer. "How about now?" Herod nodded. Not only did it increase to 2 fireballs, but it also doubled the size? Impressive. Then he cast a spell, summoning his spirit. "Why don't you try to hit this small creature with your amazing fireball?" The blue orb disappeared, and a small spirit appeared. It flew at Eliana, touched her nose, then giggled. Eliana obviously knew that was a taunt. She was extremely annoyed and unleashed 2 fireballs in rapid succession at the spirit. The blue spirit didn't even bother looking, dodging all the attacks with just a few aerial maneuvers. It covered its mouth and giggled, flying back to the professor. The professor frowned, saying, "What's the point of increasing to 2 fireballs if you can't even hit it? Do you finally understand? What you lack is the ability to use your skills effectively. You need to hone your abilities and overcome your limits. Have you all forgotten already?" Herod smiled, giving them an assignment. "Until you catch this wind spirit, class will not end. Show me all you've got, you descendants of Lumern." Leo bowed his head, pondering. His words may be harsh, but everything he said is true. So let's give it a try. Herod sat watching Leo's back, muttering, "Okay, Leo Plove, let's see if you're as full of lies as the fictional hero Kyle. Or the first to truly possess all attributes?" The students tried all kinds of methods but couldn't catch the wind spirit. She was very nimble and quick, flying through layers upon layers of attacks and magic. Leo ran out to a far distance, then cast his mana. A red aura gradually surrounded Leo. He took a running start, pushed his foot, then shot towards the spirit with the speed of a rocket. The students at this point were exhausted. Chelsea was annoyed. "Damn it, why is she so fast?" Carr was panting. "How can we possibly catch her?" Leo used the phoenix step, jumping over the spirit, then suddenly dove down, reaching his hand towards the spirit. The little creature was startled, then quickly dodged to one side. Leo smiled, using a red beam, catching the spirit's leg. Just as he reached his hand out to grab it, Duran sped past, snatching the spirit from Leo's hand. He landed in a cool fashion, glaring at Leo resentfully. The spirit in his hand was crying loudly. Sejin, the homeroom teacher of Class 1-1 of Lumern Academy. Special note: ranked second in the graduation vote, stepped forward, applauding, then putting his hand on Duran's shoulder. "It seems that we, Class 1, should teach you a few things." Herod was still very relaxed, closing his eyes, enjoying the sunlight. "Oh, is that so? Then you'll teach in my place?" Herod's special note was that, though he taught the worst class, he had ranked first in the graduation vote. Sejin was very annoyed by Herod's attitude that didn't take him seriously. Carr, standing outside, was excited. This is the clash of Lumern Academy's 2 pillars. Leo didn't understand much, asking, "Pillars?" Carr replied, "Both of them have worked at Lumern Academy for over 20 years. From what I heard, Professors Ain, Yura, and Len were all their students." Nella's eyes shone brightly. "Wow, really? How do you know that?" Carr, given the chance to show off, couldn't miss an opportunity to impress the girls. "I'm always sensitive to information." Haha. Seeing this, Chelsea shuddered with goosebumps. Sejin regained his composure, laughing loudly. "Ho ho, Herod, I don't know what you're plotting when you decided to take over the failing class." He summoned a blue orb, then smirked, "But I'll find out soon enough. I propose a competition between Class 1 and Class 5. And about the competition, how about Lumern's historical ball sport, Bastera?" Hearing this, Herod opened his eyes wide, then jumped up excitedly. "As expected, you're a genius, Sejin." Seeing the reaction of his colleague, was startled, not understanding why he was so happy. Herod smiled. Learning through real experience is the best. Sejin said stiffly. Class 1 will probably win. Right? Hearing that, Herod laid down again. Ah, that's not important. You just keep teaching your class. Sejin went crazy, thinking, how do I always lose to this guy in the graduation vote? The students looked at Sejin with sympathy. Professor Sejin looks pitiful for some reason. Sejin and Duran turned to leave. Annoyed, Herod said loudly, Class 5, I'm giving you a chance to practice your skills. There will be a Bastera match with Class 1. Oh, and also. He sat up, his gaze becoming serious. If you lose, you'll all be expelled. The whole class was very shocked to hear that. Are you serious, Professor? This is only our first match, and their class has 3 team leaders. Herod didn't care much. Then you have to try even harder. Overcome your own limits. Besides, what's there to worry about? When the new student representative is already in your class. He stared intently at Leo. Choose 6 representatives for the Bastera match. Leo calmly looked back at the professor, silently deducing, this is clearly a test. But Professor Herod is looking at me like this. Not because he hates me. There are students who have already lost their spirits after only 1 week at Lumeran Academy, and it's not hard to understand why. Perhaps Professor Herod wants me to lead the Class 5 students who have given up. So, there must be a way in this Bastera match to raise the spirit of Class 5. The day of the match arrived. The representatives of Class 1 were Duran and Celia, and the representatives of Class 5 were Leo, Chelsea, and Carl. Leo turned to ask his friend, why do you look so scared? Chelsea explained, oh, it seems you haven't heard of Bastera. Did you live in the suburbs? Bastera is a combat sport and a long-standing tradition at Lumeran. Leo wondered, isn't it just a ball game? Carl added, it's not just a ball game. The problem is, it's an extremely dangerous ball game. Celia spoke up to provoke them. Hey Chelsea, why do you look so scared? Ho, have you accepted defeat already? Chelsea angrily responded, who's scared? Do you think I'm going to lose to a Zerdinger? Leo leaned forward, putting his arms around the shoulders of his 2 teammates. Don't worry, our class won't lose. Celia frowned. TCH. Leo, you too. I'll show you the results of my special training. Behind Celia, Chloe quietly looked at Leo, telling herself, I will not lose to you this time. Leo Plove. On the observation platform, Sejin announced, the contestants from each class, please enter the arena. Leo turned to ask his class, who's going with me? The male students were hesitant, not volunteering. Chelsea and Eliana, full of energy, stepped forward, saying, I will definitely teach them a lesson. If we lose, we will be expelled. Then I will use all my hatred to win. I'll show Professor Herod my ability. Nella and a blonde-haired male student also stepped forward. Leo couldn't possibly let his hiding friend off the hook. Carl, you know the last spot belongs to you, right? Carl peeked out, bewildered. Oops, but why? Leo didn't care. He reported to Sejin. Class 5 is ready, Professor. Sejin nodded. Good. Now, he threw the ball high. Starting the ball game, everyone was very nervous. Leo and Duran jumped up to grab the ball. Duran was more skilled, grabbing the ball for himself. Alright, our class will go first. Leo jumped down, saying to Tide, hey Tide, quickly explain the rules to me. His friend explained, the rules of Bastera are simpler than you think. Channel your energy into the ball and shoot it into the goal without using your hands or feet. The team that scores 11 points first will win. Someone called out, the ball is coming. Prepare. In the goal was Carl. Duran channeled his inner power, hitting the ball hard towards Leo. Leo jumped back to avoid the ball hitting the ground and flying towards Class 5's goal. The Class 1 students cheered happily. Duran Moira, great job. In contrast, the atmosphere in Class 5 became extremely sluggish. Tide was sad. It seems that Professor Herod plans to expel all of us. Leo turned to ask again, how do you get control of the ball? There are 3 ways. When the ball goes out of bounds during the opponent's turn, when we catch the ball, and, before he could finish, suddenly Nella yelled, dodge. Leo and Tide only had time to turn around, and the wobbly ball hit Eliana. The ball from just now was from Celia. She stood and laughed. What are you whispering about over there? Can't you focus on the match? Tide worriedly helped Eliana, who was in a lot of pain, explaining to Leo, "You can't directly attack or block opponents. Just now was the third way. When a member is eliminated when they are hit by the ball. The only way to attack them is by using the ball itself." Leo picked up the ball that was rolling at his feet, saying, "Thanks for explaining." He smiled confidently. "Now it's our turn." The scoreboard was displayed. Eliana Lawton's name was crossed out in red. Sejin watched the situation, thinking, in Bastera, teams with members who use fire attributes have an overwhelming advantage due to their high destructive power. And among the families, the flame of the Zerdinger family is the strongest. Thinking this, he asked Herod, "You still agreed even knowing that Celia Zerdinger is in their class? I don't know what you're planning, but it'll be hard for your class to win." Herod let out a big yawn that annoyed Sejin. "Can you talk properly?" Herod replied lazily. "Sejin, do you remember your first student? The one from the Zerdinger family?" "Of course, how could I forget?" Sejin replied. "The Queen of Bastera." Herod smirked. "The son of that queen is in class 5. Hearing this, Sejin frowned. Silent. On the field, the students of class 5 sighed. "We're done for. How will we ever get into Lumeran Academy?" Celia spoke up. "To end it this easily." She looked at the flame around Leo. "It seems that you've finally made a decision." Class 1 warned each other. "It's coming. Be careful." Leo looked up, throwing the ball straight towards Class 1's goal. Chloe appeared, casting a thick wall of ice to block the ball. She smiled. "Leo, as long as I'm here, scoring is impossible." Before she could finish speaking, Leo was standing next to her. "Is that what you really want to say?" After saying that, Leo jumped up, punching the ball with his bare hand, piercing through the ice and flying straight into Class 1's goal. Chloe was dumbfounded, and Sejin was stunned. His fighting sense is incredible. Herod smiled contentedly. Class 5 quickly regained their momentum, cheering enthusiastically. "Leo Plove, go for it. Class 5, move forward." Sejin smirked. "Ah, I understand now. This is when the real battle starts." With Leo's attack that evened the score, the battle became more intense than ever. The two classes unleashed their power, using all kinds of skills to gain the upper hand. Fire, earth, ice, and wind were all displayed with great effect. Of course, there were those who were eliminated in the battle. The score was separated by 1 point, then tied again, becoming extremely intense. The score reached 9-10 in favor of Class 1. Duran focused his power, throwing the ball with tremendous force and lightning speed towards Carl, intending to end everything with this shot. Carl poured all his mana into his hands, taking the full force of the shot. Carl smiled contentedly, his body smoking. Hee. Anyway, my mana is almost gone. I'll leave the rest to you. Leo. He threw the ball to Leo. 2 students helped Carl up. Leo praised his friend. "Well done, Carl." The score between the two sides was now 10-10. This round would be the decisive one. Class 5 was very worried. Our opponents are 3 of the most outstanding students. Class 5 only had Leo Plove left, while Class 1 still had Duran, Celia, and Chloe. Everyone was worried that Class 5 only having Leo would be a huge disadvantage. Leo picked up the ball, staring intently at his opponents. Chloe was in a ready stance. "I may have lost in the magic theory test, but I will not lose this time." Chloe split herself into 4 ice versions, standing to block the goal. Celia and Duran were also ready. "Come here, Leo." Leo lifted his heel, a blue light rising. Then Leo disappeared before their eyes. The 3 of them bit their lips. Leo was too fast, making it impossible for them to keep up with his speed. Leo sped past Celia. She yelled, "He's not going to attack. He's focusing on scoring." Chloe used her magic from her left eye, intending to predict her opponent's movements. An illusion spell? Too superficial. So where is he really? But then she realized with a shock, this magic is. Leo moved extremely nimbly before her eyes, appearing and disappearing. Impossible to grasp. Chloe was stunned. Forgetting to defend, she collapsed. Leo easily zoomed past her, throwing the ball into the goal, ending the match. Chloe turned to look at Leo. It's celestial magic. How can a human use the magic of the elven race? The results were clear. The winner was Class 5. Class 5 erupted with joy, repeatedly cheering Leo's name. 2 upperclassmen hugged each other. Hick, thank goodness we're not going to be expelled. I was afraid that I'd have to go home immediately. Sejin turned to ask Herod. Expelled? What are they talking about? Herod chuckled. We should call it motivation. Right? Sejin, seeing his 3 students looking extremely downcast from the loss, sighed, then approached them. He held his hand out in front of Chloe. Are you frustrated that you lost? Chloe was still kneeling on the ground, raising her head slightly to answer. Professor. He smiled. When the match ends, no matter what the result, you must greet your opponents. You all did very well to win for your class. Those who cheered on their friends and those who put their all into the arena. Therefore, you should be firm and proud. The students of Class 1, hearing this, looked at their professor with great emotion, quickly regaining their spirits. At this moment, Herod called out, as if teasing, Hey, losers, come here to end this. Sejin, who was calm a moment ago, advising his students, now looked like a volcano about to erupt. Sejin gave a summary of the match. Both classes did very well. Class 1 showed their talent and abilities, while Class 5 didn't give up until the very end, overcoming all challenges. They recognized their limits and succeeded in overcoming the difficult situation. I hope you will work and compete together in harmony. Everyone, shake hands. The 5 representatives of the 2 classes lined up, shaking hands after the match. Celia praised Chelsea. You lasted longer than I thought. I thought you would lose sooner. Chelsea replied, I was about to say the same thing to you. You're as stubborn as an ink prince. Carl smiled brightly, shaking hands with Duran, but this time, we won. Obviously. Duran's face was grim, his eyes looking at Carl darkly. Chloe had tears streaming down her face. Keeping her head lowered, Leo held out his hand. You were great, Chloe. With a bit more experience, you will definitely become extraordinary. Chloe frowned, raising her head. Are you making fun of me? But then seeing Leo's warm, smiling face, she lowered her head, thinking to herself, one day, I will definitely defeat you. She reached out and shook hands with Leo. A month later, during lunch, Carl asked about Chelsea and Leo's club membership status. By the way, what clubs are you planning to join? Leo thoughtfully replied, I'm thinking about forming a club. Hearing this, Carl was horrified. He shouted, sending food flying out of his mouth. Chelsea dodged quickly. You need to eat more neatly. Then she turned to Leo. If Leo forms a club, I want to join. Carl regained his composure, asking carefully, what kind of club is it? A hero research club. Carl and Chelsea were very surprised. Leo explained, I want to learn more about the forgotten heroes and the original hero. Kyle? But he's not a forgotten hero. He's just fictional. Carl said, it seems that no one will join your club. Chelsea thought to herself, does this mean I will be alone with Leo? She hurriedly raised her hand. Me, I want to join. Suddenly, the students murmured, pointing to the window. Wow, they're back. Hearing this, Carl also hurriedly stood up. Oh, that's right, it's today. Chelsea and Leo, not understanding what was going on, also stood up to look. Carl said, today is the day that the 5th-year students return after conquering the hero dungeons. Fragments of the heroic chronicles were scattered across the world. Occasionally, they would malfunction and create dungeons. These places were called hero dungeons. The upperclassmen at Lumern, in order to clear these hero dungeons and collect the fragments of the heroic chronicles, would leave for at least 2 weeks, sometimes longer than a month. Leo's mother must have experienced something similar. Chelsea was in awe. Wow, so this is the top level of Lumern. Carl cleared his throat. Now was his time to show off his expert gossip skills. He began to introduce the students. The muscular man on the east is Lee Jamua. The southern woman beside him is Torua Yan, and the pale hooded one looks like Ulta. But I can't see the person. The leader of Lumern, the student council president Reese. Before Leo could hear the whole story, someone pulled him away. Carl turned back to ask, oh, right, Leo, you? But his friend was gone. Leo was being pulled away, asking curiously, Celia, what's going on? There's a place you need to go with me. Where to? Leo brushed off his clothes. Celia turned to explain, to Lumern City. The student council president said he wants to meet you. Leo wondered, the student council president? Why would they look for me? Celia sighed, you really don't care about anything related to school. Just go there and you'll find out. A little later, the two of them arrived at a Chinese-style restaurant as per the appointment. Celia looked around. I wonder why he wants to meet here, of all places. Leo replied, why not? It smells so good. Suddenly, Celia put on a big smile, running over to hug the person who had just arrived, calling out, Big Brother, Reese Zerdinger, of the night department, the student council president of Lumern, and also Celia's older brother. He smiled at Leo. It's nice to meet you. Leo Plove, I've heard a lot about you. You're aiming to become an all-around hero, right? The food was quickly served. Reese asked, is this food to everyone's liking? Leo, enjoying the delicious food, replied, yes. Seeing that Celia was just looking at the food, not eating, Reese turned to ask his sister, what's wrong? Oh, it's my first time eating something like this. Celia hesitated a bit, then tried a bite. As soon as she took a bite, Celia's eyes lit up. It's so good. Reese laughed. Haha, this is the restaurant that I wanted to take you to once you joined Lumern. But, it's really unexpected that you're the son of that person. Leo asked, have you met my mother before? I met her a few times when I was little. And your aunt was quite famous when she was a student at the school. Leo was blank. My mother? Yes, she was someone who created a lot of legends. For example, she once said that the desserts at the dorm cafeteria were too awful. So she gathered all the students and occupied the headmaster's office. Celia was surprised. Was she the main character of that famous incident? Reese smiled. Yes, she was. The meal ended on a happy note. Celia and Reese talked very excitedly. Leo looked at his upperclassman, thinking to himself, as expected, he's worthy of being called the strongest in Lumern. It seems that it's only a matter of time before he becomes a hero. Reese stood up, suggesting to his two siblings, well then, shall we go have dessert? Celia agreed happily. Reese pulled out his wallet in a cool manner. I'll pay. You two go ahead. When Leo and Celia reached the door, Reese suddenly felt that something was off. He held the fragment of the heroic chronicles in his hand, which was glowing, looking very surprised and confused. Why is this happening? After finishing their meal, Leo and Celia returned to the academy for their classes. In Professor Herod's self-study class, Eliana raised her hand. Professor, I have a question. Herod, sitting casually on his chair, arms crossed, replied, Eliana Layden, let's hear your useless question. She stood up. Why haven't we chosen a class leader yet? I heard all the other classes have already chosen theirs. Tide agreed. Oh, that's right. Herod scratched his ear, looking thoughtful. A class leader? Oh right, I forgot about that. Then he made a decision. Leo, you do it. Eliana was teary-eyed. Why? Tide was also confused. Professor, shouldn't we choose the class representative democratically through a vote? Without saying much, Herod slammed a stack of papers on the table. Class leader, take this and organize it. Eliana blanked, then quietly sat down, as if nothing had happened. The speaker announced, in a few moments, we will have a joint lecture on herd research. All first-year students, please prepare to go to the auditorium. Leo spoke up. Professor, should we prepare to go now? Herod snapped his fingers in agreement. That's the spirit of a class leader. The first-year students swarmed into the hallways, walking together toward the auditorium. Carl, seeing Chloe, greeted her immediately. Hello Chloe, you look tired. Hearing her name, Chloe turned around, looking like she hadn't slept for a week. She walked towards Carl with her dark circles under her eyes, asking, do you have any more fatigue recovery medicine? Can you sell it to me? Carl pulled 2 small bottles out of his invisible bag and gave them to her. Here's all that I have at the moment. Leo wondered, you're already pushing yourself so hard this early in the semester? Chloe tilted her head back and downed the whole bottle, then turned her head to leave. I'm fine. Carl watched her go, admiring her. Wow, so admirable. She's at the top for magic theory. Chelsea nodded, but I guess Chloe has no choice but to worry. The moment Leo learns the latest trends in magic, he may even surpass her on the magic theory test. Carl wondered, what about second place? Chelsea glared at him. Are you really brainless? She's a mage of the tower. We're battle mages, so we don't mind falling a bit behind in theory. But research and investigation is the core of the Tower of Mages. Her honor is at stake. Are you really a mage? Carl shrugged, speaking in a teasing tone. Of course, I use magic to live. Survival magic is my pride." Suddenly, a ferocious voice rang out, attracting the attention of the students. Die. Scene change. The headmaster was busy wiping leaves in his room when he suddenly froze. Asking a question, "Did the broken fragment of the Heroic Chronicles react?" Reese confirmed, "That's right. It was a page that was so badly damaged that it shouldn't have reacted. But it really did. Furthermore, there were no artifacts nearby either." The headmaster asked, "Did it react again afterward?" "No, it didn't." The headmaster picked up the fragment of the chronicle, pondered for a while. "I'll have to investigate this further. You just got back. You must be tired. You did well." He closed the box, calling for his assistant, Elena. "Yes, headmaster?" He held out the box, instructing her, "Take this to the auditorium of the beginning. In the lecture hall, the joint first-year class is about to start." Elena obeyed, taking the box and leaving the room. The headmaster put his hands behind his back, looking out the window, thinking to himself, "Sometimes, small fragments like this can react too. If the person recorded in the Heroic Chronicle is in contact, it will react." A little later, at the Lumern Academy lecture hall, the professor in charge of class 1 to 8, the first-year Hero Studies class, Artian Near, was frantically trying to calm down the noisy lecture hall, which sounded like a bustling marketplace. The gentler she tried to be, the less the students above cared. Freely chatting away, a person's patience has its limits. And a blue and red light emanated from Artian as she unleashed her inner fury. "Everyone, if you don't want to get hit, shut your damn mouths. You brats, do you want to die?" The students were stunned, their faces blank, and they all fell silent at once. The professor yelled, "Which one of you should I take care of first? You're human, not bugs. So why do I have to yell like this? You people really don't listen. I already don't want to go over pickleball levels, but you have to make my blood boil." Then, as if suddenly realizing she was being too over the top, Artian returned to her normal state, her voice gentle as if she hadn't been yelling at all. "Ah, finally. It's quiet. Thank you, everyone." Not a single student dared to move. This teacher changed faces faster than flipping a book. The students of Class 8 trembled, thinking to themselves, "Oh, God, no matter how many times I see it, it's still so scary. Our professor is really too terrifying." Hoo-hoo, Leo thought, "So she's a psychic mage. Even in my previous life, psychic mages were very rare." Artian picked up a knife, smiling, saying, "We will now begin the joint lesson of the first-year Hero Studies class." After the appearance of the Heroic Chronicle, the reason hero families appear is this: to open the world of a hero. You need an object that has a deep or strong connection with that hero. Therefore, descendants of heroes can open hero worlds more easily. This is the reason why Lumern Academy, where the Heroic Chronicles are stored, and these families have a deep relationship. Although it's political, you could say that it's like the connection between a key and a treasure. Leo listened very intently. This story is really interesting. At this moment, Elena, carrying the fragment of the Heroic Chronicle, opened the door and came in. Artian was still enthusiastically lecturing. "Now do you all understand why hero studies are so important? Hero studies are important because they help us find clues to conquer a hero's world and understand them more. In your final year, you will choose a hero to inherit their power and test your skills with their pages of the Heroic Chronicles." Elena came in front of Artian, holding up the fragment of the Heroic Chronicle. Artian, understanding, smiled and said to the students, "Everyone, this is a fragment of the Heroic Chronicle that the fifth-year students of Lumern brought back." The students were very excited, cheering loudly. The whole group was looking eagerly at the professor's every move as she opened the box. After only opening it a little, Artian suddenly slammed the box shut, saying, "All right, before we experience this fragment of the Heroic Chronicle, let's talk about what your goals are as a hero." Celia raised her hand to volunteer. "I want to become a knight that surpasses the previous generations of my family." Artian praised. "Oh, that's a wonderful goal," Chloe said. "I want to write a magic book that only contains my original magic." Carl placed his hand on his chest. "I want to become a supporter of heroes." His classmates cheered. It seems that Carl wants to become someone who can support heroes. How wonderful. When it was Leo's turn, he coldly declared, "My goal is to completely destroy Erebos." As soon as he said that, the entire auditorium was shaken. Artian was confused. That's a truly astonishing goal. Alright, next person. Carl looked at his friend. Stuttering, unable to speak. The people around him were laughing. Is he dreaming too big? Haha. The new student representative's goal is really. Sejin turned to ask Herod. What do you think? Herod also had to admit. It's chilling. Because he's not the type of person to say empty words. It's been millennia since Erebos was split into pieces and sealed away. But he has been reborn many times over the years. One fragment of him being reborn is a disaster. But his dream is to completely destroy Erebos? After everyone had said their goals, Artian continued with her lecture. So today, we will read a page of the heroic chronicle that was brought back from the dungeon. After each class guesses what hero it belongs to, we will learn how to conquer that hero's world. Oh, and by the way, in case anything unexpected happens, the professors of each class will be watching, so please don't cause any trouble. The students were excited and nervous. Finally, this is the first time I'm touching the heroic chronicle. Nella's eyes were sparkling. Tide, next to her, was restless. I'm so nervous. Artian continued. Alright, then, the representatives of each class, please come up here. Celia, Leo, Avid Llewellyn, and Chen Shaw stepped up onto the platform in turn. Artian continued. This time, 2 fragments of the heroic chronicle were brought back. Of course, we will only use one for today's class. The other is a very small fragment. But we brought it out to show you that fragments like this also exist. Artian held up 2 boxes. Student Leo, choose one. Leo picked the smaller fragment. A yellow light suddenly burst out. Surrounding the auditorium, a message appeared. The heroic chronicle is opening. World of Unidentified. Chapter Unidentified. The light and aura became stronger. Sejin was worried. Is it getting out of control? The yellow light surrounded everyone, then slowly faded, revealing a strange scene that made everyone confused. All around were scattered corpses of demons and animals. A female student, overwhelmed by the surprise, panicked. There are corpses. Herod warned his students. Prepare yourselves. This is a hero's dungeon. Sejin pointed in one direction. Herod, I see a wall over there. Leo looked in the direction of the professor's hand, thinking to himself, in the age of disaster, the final defense line in the final city. Gardeslin Wall. If it was the right time, Leo quietly said. Yes, Kyle, my unfulfilled wish was truly foolish. Suddenly, a voice spoke, matching what Leo had been saying. Except the name Kyle was left blank. Yes, my unfulfilled wish was truly foolish. Everyone turned to look. The figure of a woman appeared. She said, but we will save the world. Leo was silent, standing face to face with that familiar face. He whispered, Lycinus. Suddenly, the illusion blurred. The last thing that appeared was Lycinus's smile. Then the illusion shattered, and everyone was still trying to understand what had just happened. Shaw was worried. Professor, what's going on? Herod suddenly said loudly. All classes are suspended. Everyone, please remain calm and leave the auditorium. The students left one by one. Leo stood still, looking at the fragment of the chronicle in his hand. He was now certain. Kyle's page. This is my chronicle. Lost in his thoughts, Leo didn't notice Herod standing with his arms crossed, carefully observing him. A while later, after returning to class, everyone surrounded Leo, asking about his experience. Eliana yelled loudly, Did you meet the King of Wisdom? Chelsea was enthusiastic. That's amazing. This is a historical event. So that was Lycinus's heroic chronicle? Eliana cried out in regret. I knew I should have become the class leader. I missed such a great opportunity. Carl laughed teasingly. Yeah, you did. Just as Eliana angrily hit Carl, Professor Herod appeared. It seems today is the day of your funeral. He was leaning against the door. I came here to scold the noisiest class. And here it is. Choose self-study or expulsion. Class 5 immediately returned to silence. Leo sat deep in thought. Why is my heroic chronicle the only one that's messed up? It's in such bad condition that I can't even recognize whose world it is. He remembered the message boards and the blank information, as well as Lanice's. It's almost like someone deliberately destroyed my heroic chronicle. The true heroic chronicle is an item to inherit the power of a hero. If someone doesn't want a new hero to be born, that is likely arrowbows. I need to investigate why my heroic chronicle was torn apart first. A month later, at the magic department, Professor Len was enthusiastically lecturing. The original magic. In other words, a unique magic. This will be your practical midterm test. Original magic is a type of magic that clearly shows the individuality of the mage. In today's era, when activation techniques have become the main trend, mages no longer try to create original magic. However, this original magic can become a secret technique to protect oneself in dangerous situations. The star magic that every elf learns, in reality, is just a small copy of original magic. In history, only one person used real star magic, and that was its creator. The founder of Nebulage, Luna. Chloe, hearing that, glanced at Leo, remembering the magic he used in the ball game before, and her face turned grim. On the other side, Leo also looked over, his attention landing immediately on the book radiating dark light next to Chloe. She also noticed, hurriedly putting the book away. Seeing Chloe's reaction, Leo quietly guessed, "A grimoire?" Professor Len finished the class. "Now, I'm sure everyone is looking forward to discovering their unique magic. Class is over for today." The students slowly moved out of the class. Leo grabbed Chloe's hand. "Wait, Chloe." She frowned, not answering. Leo smiled. "Would you like to have lunch with me?" Then he thought, she hid that grimoire just now. Chloe shook his hand off. "I don't have time for that. I will definitely defeat you in this practical test." Carl approached at this moment. "Hey, what's up with you two?" Carl put his arm around Leo's shoulder. Laughing, "Leo, you devil, are you daring to challenge the Ice Queen's #1 position in Magic?" Chloe said, "I've already lost to Leo technically. However, when it comes to magic techniques, I cannot let anyone surpass me. So this time, no matter what, I will win." Her eyes shone with determination. Leo smiled at his friend. "If I back out now, wouldn't that be disrespectful to you?" Chloe nodded slightly. Leo held out his hand. "Okay, let's both prepare well." Without hesitating, Chloe reached out and shook hands with Leo. Carl's eyes lit up watching them. That's such a natural way to hold hands. As evening approached, Leo entered the hero tower, both observing and thinking to himself, "Somewhere around here is the Lumern Forbidden Library. If I can get there, maybe I'll find some clues about my lost heroic chronicle." My bumpy road. Leo was lost in thought, not noticing two upperclassmen walking past him. The two of them giggled. "Oh, isn't that a first year? Why did he come here? He's so cute." Suddenly, someone called his name. "Leo Plove?" Leo looked up, recognizing it was a fifth-year student from the magic department. Torua Yan. She was chewing on candy as she spoke. "I've heard a lot about you from Professor Len. It's nice to meet you." Leo bowed politely. "Hello, senior." Yan stretched her leg out to block his path, asking, "What's a first-year student doing at the hero tower?" Leo explained, "I came to meet the student council president." Yan nodded. "If you join the magic department, you'll have a chance." "I'm already in the magic department," Leo said. Yan smiled, then stepped aside, letting Leo pass. He politely thanked her and continued walking. Suddenly, Yan called to him, "Leo, I want you to declare your major as the magic department before the end of this semester." "Understood?" She smiled, but her eyes seemed to be warning him. Leo nodded a goodbye, then turned to leave. He walked to an elevator, pressing the button for the 9th floor. But the elevator didn't seem to want to work. Leo was confused. "What? Why isn't it working?" A hand covered in blue mana stretched out, pressing the button for him. Then instructed, "You need to channel mana into it. That's how you activate it." Leo looked up, and saw it was a fifth-year student from the night department, Lee Zamu. He smiled warmly at his junior. "It's nice to meet you." Leo Plove. "So, you're the hotshot first-year representative, huh?" Leo bowed respectfully to the upperclassman. "Greetings, senpai." Ri Zamua questioned, "Why are you at the hero tower?" Leo looked up, smiled at his upperclassman, and asked the same question. "So, why are you at the hero tower?" Ri chuckled. A freshman who isn't afraid of me at all. Bold enough to walk straight into the student council president's office." Leo tried to explain, "I wouldn't call it walking straight into." Upperclassman Reed didn't seem to care and switched into HR mode. "You should seriously consider joining the night department. What do you say?" In situations like these, Leo just needed to flash a confident smile. The entire school was full of recruiters trying to hire students. He thought to himself, "Am I already tired before the main topic even starts?" After a short walk, they arrived at the student council president's office. Leo knocked on the door. "President Reese, this is Leo Plove. May I come in?" "Come in," a voice responded from behind the door. Reese was busy reading documents. Seeing Leo enter, he smiled. "What's the matter, Leo?" Leo didn't beat around the bush and went straight to the point. "I want to access the restricted library." Hearing this, the president's cheerful expression faded, and he looked at Leo thoughtfully. "I know you're not the type to joke around, but there are only 2 ways for a normal student to enter the restricted library. The first way is to conquer the hero dungeon. According to custom, the person who conquers the dungeon will return the pages they acquired to the hero records themselves. As for the second way," Reese rested his hands on his chin. Grinning, "I'll tell you once you join the student council." Great, another hour, Leo thought. A few days later, the practical exam for the night department arrived. Carl was excited. Finally, the night department's first practical exam has arrived. Lots of people are coming to watch. You can't watch a fight like this without popcorn. Chelsea was feeling apathetic. It seems Carl is really passionate about his business ventures. Hayes, Eliana patted her on the shoulder. Haha, that's just Carl. It seems like he'd still make money even if he wasn't in Lumern. Leo had also arrived at the field. He looked around. It doesn't look like Chloe is here. The time for the event arrived. The students had all gathered on the field and the stands were filled to capacity. Professor Ain, with his arms crossed, announced, "For the first match, Halil Snafe from Class 1 and Leo Plove from Class 5. Please step forward." The 2 students called quickly stepped forward. Carl suddenly noticed Professor Sejin in the back, so he happily ran over to greet him. The professor asked, "What's the matter, Carl?" The boy cheerfully presented his wares. "Would you like to buy some popcorn and soda?" The professor sighed. Do you think I would buy that?" asked Harlan. Carl turned to look at Celia. She nodded, understanding, then approached, opening her wide, sparkling eyes and said in a spoiled tone, "Professor, would you buy us popcorn? Wow, it looks really good." The other students also joined in chanting the teacher's name. Their enthusiasm to buy his goods even more intense than that of the students fighting on the field. Sejin was silent for a moment and then said slowly, "Give everyone 1 each." Carl's eyes lit up. Jackpot. He quickly obeyed the professor. On the field, Leo smiled at his opponent. "Good luck to you, my first opponent." Halil's gave an eerie smile and licked his lips. "It seems like you don't care about me at all. You'll regret that." A green light emitted from Halil's. Surrounding him, he was a night department student from the hero family of the Snafe clan. This match was the midterm practical exam for the night department. Everyone would pass the exam by winning 5 matches in the duels. In the stands, people started to discuss it. "I wonder what the class representative's skills are like. Since Leo is majoring in 3 subjects, he'll definitely have a disadvantage compared to those who only focus on one." Don't forget that Halil's is ranked 3rd in Class 1. Right after Celia and Duran, Halil's took out his spear, the green mana around him becoming more and more visible. He spun the spear, thinking, "Leo Plove, that arrogant guy who's always around Celia. Today I'll teach him a lesson he won't forget." Ain announced clearly, "The one who makes his opponent unable to fight will win. Treat this match like a real battle." Suddenly, Leo felt a dark aura emanating from very close by. He turned around, looking at the building where the aura came from. At that moment, Chloe was inside her room, engrossed in writing. Around her were stacks of books piled up like mountains. After a while, she still hadn't come up with anything useful. She was furious, stood up, tore the paper in half, and trembled. No way I can create this unique magic with just my own abilities." She bit her lip, swept all the books and papers off the table. She remembered Leo, and a feeling of competition burned inside her. "I absolutely cannot lose to him in this practical exam." Her eyes suddenly stopped at a magic book on the floor. "With this, I can win." Chloe's eyes glowed with ambition. "This time, I'll definitely win." Over on the field, Leo was still looking at the building, assessing what kind of aura it was. Halil's rushed towards him, smirking. You were too careless. I caught you." The spear in his hand flew towards Leo. He tilted his head to dodge it. Recognizing that his opponent's weapon was the serpent spear, Halils didn't hesitate and thrust his spear straight toward Leo's chest. He calmly grabbed the spear with his bare hand. Looking directly into his opponent's eyes with an easygoing expression, Halils gritted his teeth. "What kind of power is this?" he muttered. Leo pulled the spear strongly towards the back. Halils, who was holding tightly onto the weapon, was suddenly pulled along, receiving a devastating punch straight to the face. He spat out orange syrup and flew far away. Leo smirked. "Who said I was being careless? You're still too young and inexperienced." Halils quickly got up, a green snake appearing in the air. He smiled. "Don't get so cocky. The match has only just begun." He was so confident because he thought Leo was a guy who couldn't even use auras. Having great strength didn't mean the basic weaknesses had been dealt with. Halils released a large amount of green aura at Leo. Leo looked up, observing the situation, and then said, "Toxic aura? How unique." With that, Leo began to unleash his fire aura. A bright red light flashed, and then quickly engulfed Leo. Halils was still confident at this moment. "Unless it's at Celia's level of fire aura, it's very hard to push me back." Haha. Leo's eyes narrowed. "You're the one who's always being careless." In the blink of an eye, Leo was right in front of his opponent. Halils was alarmed. In the stands, the crowd cheered. Duran frowned. Watching the match, Celia was surprised. "Leo, when did you boost your fire aura to this level?" Halils was startled. "What? Celia's level of fire? Is someone really powerful enough to try and surpass all the elements?" He whispered. "I was originally going to use this move to defeat Celia." He released a white-purple light. "It was the snake prison move. I didn't expect to have to use it on someone like you." Leo Plove. Leo calmly observed the green snake wrapping around him, thinking to himself, "Oh, not bad." Halils was triumphant, eager to see Celia's expression. "What do you think, Celia? I made this technique to control your flames." Celia sighed and pointed at something on the field. Halils followed her gaze, looked at Leo, and saw that the snake wrapped around Leo was being burned, gradually becoming transparent and then disappearing. Halil's eyes widened in anger and disbelief. He growled and charged at Leo. Leo leisurely drew his sword, slashed, and sent Halil's spear flying, causing him to fall on the field. Leo smiled, pointing his sword at Halil's neck and warned, "Don't let your guard down until the fire is completely out." The match ended. Ain declared Leo Plove the winner. Chelsea cheered joyfully, yelling loudly, "Triple A, that's Leo for you." Carl was generous with his praise. "Amazing. I knew I could trust you." Leo. Halils admitted defeat, impressed that Leo was this good even in training. It was no wonder that Leo was on par with Celia. While he was still in a slump, the goddess Celia approached him, praising him. "That was impressive. Excellent work." Halils, blushing, forgot all about his loss and smiled. Blushing. "Really? You thought it was cool?" "Haha." Professor Ain announced. "Next up, from Class 5, Eliana Layden, step forward." She was brimming with fighting spirit. "Alright, I've been waiting. Who's my opponent?" Without making her wait long, her opponent was Chen Xia. From Class 1, she was stunned. "What? Why does it have to be one of the 3 strongest in the class?" Fire versus water. Xia greeted her opponent. "Please, go easy on me." Eliana responded. "Yeah, you too." The match began. Xia summoned water, while Eliana pulled out her fire sword and rushed toward Xia. Leo folded his arms, already predicting the match. Eliana is gonna hurt after this. As predicted, the tip of her sword touched the water and was immediately knocked back. The entire person was steaming. The winner of this match was Chen Xia. Eliana smiled and sat up, proudly grinning. "But I still didn't flinch against Chen Xia." Leo commented. "The match was disadvantageous from the start. But if you were calmer, you could have done better." The next match was Celia from Class 1, facing Duran from the same class. Celia turned her head to look at her friend and smiled. "HMPH, it'll be fun facing you." Duran's face was tense, he didn't respond. Carl was stunned, sitting and eating popcorn, incredibly eager for the match. Just then Leo approached. "This match will be interesting." The two warmed up, summoning their powers, lightning versus fire. The entire stands were amazed. "Let's see who the strongest knight of Class 1 is." And the fight began. They drew their swords, clashing together with sharp slashes. They were evenly matched. The students who were watching were blinded by the light emitted from the fight. "Wow, is this the skill of the top students?" Carl asked. "Who do you think will win? Leo?" Leo slowly ate his popcorn and predicted, based on appearances, Celia will win." Carl was indignant. "You're so cold." Leo didn't say anything, he thought. But with Celia's eyes, she must have a secret move to turn the tide. Down on the field, Duran didn't flinch. He moved swiftly, using his lightning-fast speed to counterattack. A slash from his sword cut through the air with a sharp, whistling sound, releasing a streak of electricity. Celia tilted her head to avoid it, but the cold lightning grazed her face, leaving a deep scratch. She raised her sword to block Duran's attack, and then raised her sword to the sky, activating all the power of her fire skills. A massive pillar of fire burst around her body, and then gradually spread throughout the field, causing the temperature to rise rapidly. The audience immediately gasped. "This is not a joke." Leo praised. "Celia is using her brain very well." Carl didn't understand the situation. "Why? What's happening?" Leo explained. "The training room in the first-year building is quite small." Celia realized that it's hard to keep up with Duran's speed, so she turned the training room into her own stage. Now, within that blazing dome of fire, Duran's movements will be limited. The high temperature is also affecting his vision. She was amazing already, but now she is even stronger. Celia smiled at her opponent, while Duran was busy using his hand to shield his face from the heat. Celia suddenly appeared from behind and slashed at him. Duran startled, dodging and hastily raising his sword to counterattack. But Celia was a step faster, and grabbed Duran's sword. She smiled triumphantly. "I caught you." Then she leaned her head back and slammed her head into Duran's, making him drop his sword and fall backward on the field. The winner of this match was Celia Zinger. The audience cheered endlessly because of the amazing fight. Celia waved her hand. "Why don't you try improving your stamina, then?" She reached her hand out in front of Duran. He held his head, sat up, and frowned at Celia, but then stood up and grabbed her hand. Celia's fan club was incredibly moved and impressed, constantly taking photos to capture this amazing move. Leo smiled. Training is paying off. Celia. At that moment, a hand reached from behind and grabbed a handful of popcorn, shoving it into their mouth and eating greedily. Leo turned around. It was Professor Herod. He mumbled while eating. Celia really won. Then turned and walked away. "Thank you for the explanation." Class representative. Leo looked confused. He didn't know when the professor had been listening. The night department practical exam ended. Celia Zinger, Duran Moira, and Chen Shaw won 4 matches and lost 1, while Leo maintained his winning streak of 5 consecutive matches. A week later, Leo's class had a written language exam. Teacher Herod collected the papers, patted the stack of papers on the desk, and said, "You guys worked hard. Don't fail and get expelled. Be diligent." After saying that, he waved goodbye to the class and left directly. As soon as the door slammed shut, Eliana grumbled angrily. "Grr, he's always threatening us with expulsion. It's always the same old speech from day to day." The other students gathered around Chelsea. "Chelsea, let me see the answers." The girl crossed her arms with a pleased look. "Who should I show it to first?" Immediately, everyone started yelling, "Chelsea, me first. No, let me see it first." After the exam, Leo had already fallen asleep on the desk. Nella, sitting nearby, turned around excitedly to ask him, "How was the exam, class leader?" Leo looked up, scratching his head. "I don't think it was too bad." Nella giggled. "Ho ho, even the class leader who always seems like he's in control of everything can have that kind of face." Leo said nonchalantly, "Huh? Do I really look like that?" His pink-haired friend started laughing. "If you feel pain anywhere, tell me, I'll heal you with my magic." Hearing this, Carl immediately took the opportunity to complain. "Oh Nella, my shoulders and back are all stiff. Help me too." While he was still speaking, Chelsea ran over, flashing a bright smile. Then Wax slapped Carl on the back. "Is it better now, Grandpa?" While the guy was holding his back in pain, she turned towards Leo. Her attitude changed completely. "Leo, How is your summoning training going? Tide says you rarely go to the summoning training room. Leo smiled. I train hard in a place where no one can see me. Chelsea's eyes sparkled. As expected of Leo. So what rank do you think you'll get in the summoning exam? Leo smiled confidently. Me? Of course. I'll get first place. Time passed. And soon, it was the day of the summoning practice exam. In the academy's stadium, the event organizer was extremely excited. The biggest event in the first semester for the freshmen. Welcome to the summoning race. It is an honor to work with you all. I am Runba Tess, a third-year summoning student. Celia, sitting in the audience, asked her brother curiously, "Is this really an exam?" Reese smiled, explaining to his younger sister. The summoning race is a long-standing tradition at the Summoning Academy, which makes it very popular. Furthermore, since it's one of the events selected during the interdepartmental exchanges, it's always a hot topic. In the stands, many students had already gathered. Everyone was excitedly watching the exams. The students who had to participate were under a lot of pressure. One person grumbled, "Why are people so loud and crowded? It's making me lose focus. It's really annoying." Leo stood still, observing the audience. Suddenly, Eliza came over, looking at him coldly. Shaw and Walden were behind her. Eliza smirked. "You showed outstanding skills in the night practice exam. Have you prepared well for the summoning practice exam?" Leo stretched, and replied, "Of course." Eliza continued, "For someone who claims to have prepared well, I've never once seen you in practice." The others, upon hearing this, clenched their fists and yelled, "Yeah, that's right. If you're looking down on this, then just give up. We've never once seen you create a real bond with a summoned creature." Tide tried to mediate. "Hey, what's wrong, everyone? Why are you guys so heated?" The others, now emboldened, yelled even louder, "Don't be on his side just because you're in the same class." "Tide, that guy is completely looking down on our department." Shaw spoke up. "The atmosphere is too tense. If it's like this before the exam." Sen Lu, a summoning student from the Eastern continent, said with a sneer, "Chen Shaw, since you also got a high score in the night department, you don't need to worry too much about summoning, right?" Shaw felt a little flustered. "That's..." Before she could finish, Walden stepped forward with a dark face, interrupting, "You're too loud. You background characters. If you want to argue about who rides their summoned creatures the longest, then don't do it in front of me. Go play somewhere else." Sen Lu was obviously furious. "What did you just say, Walden?" The young man looked at him with cold eyes. "I'm saying that it's annoying when people who ride their summoned creatures for a little longer act as if it's such a great achievement." Sen Lu, unwilling to give up, said sarcastically, "Huh? Feeling guilty? You also rarely appear in the taming practices." Walden simply responded, "Hey, that's because it's not worth my time to practice. Baby, I'm not the type of idiot who can't even manage a griffin." Being told this, the chubby Sen Lu could no longer contain himself. He raised his hand to punch Walden. "You bastard, do you know who my dad is?" Leo suddenly appeared, blocking the punch, reminding him, "If you fight before the exam, it won't just end with a warning. You'll lose your right to participate, too." Sen was enraged but could do nothing about it. He waved his hand and left. Tide scratched his ear, lamenting, "The summoning freshmen are really in a bad mood lately." Leo asked curiously, "Why is that?" Tide sighed. "Summoning is an area with a large skill gap between the minority and the majority. But because of you and Chen Shaw, people who aren't specialized in summoning ended up at the top. The second-year summoning students even called all of us out for a talk. Plus, you guys rarely come to practice." Upon hearing this, Leo turned around and met the gaze of his classmates. He thought, "Indeed, it may look like I've been slacking off." Thinking this, Leo didn't pay any more attention and walked out to the field. He didn't notice a strange figure, cloaked and masked, who was staring intently at him from the stands. Seeing that the exam was about to start, the figure turned and stepped into a blackish-purple portal, and disappeared. Below in the field, Sen Lu was burning with rage, gnashing his teeth. "We'll see during the exam. You arrogant bastards. I will surely eliminate you all." On the stage, Runba eagerly shared the rules of the event before the start of the exam. Summoning freshmen can only use summoning skills in the exam. Even the dual element students are prohibited from using chi or magic. When the event starts, you must tame the griffin in front of you, pass through the summoning island, and use the still lake as a landmark to return. Who will be the star of the summoning midterm practice exam? We'll find out right now. The participating students were all standing at the starting line. Professor Yura yelled, "Freshmen, don't be nervous. Do what you've practiced. Anyone who loses heart under the pressure will be left behind in the exam." The students, upon hearing this, though they were all telling themselves not to be nervous, were still shaking uncontrollably. They were truly terrified. Yura smiled and gave the starting signal. "Okay, get ready. Begin." As soon as the command was given, everyone rushed forward. Those who had argued with Leo before were playing dirty. They shot their magic towards Leo and Walden, trying to hinder them. The commentator's voice rang out on the speakers. "Ah, what is happening here? The summoning students. It seems they've planned this beforehand. They're all targeting the freshman representative, Leo Plove, and the top student from the southern continent, Walden." Leo raised his hand, trying to nullify the spells. Tide, riding his griffin, looked worriedly at him. "Class leader." Leo reminded his friend, "Don't worry about me, just go. This is the exam." Tide, upon hearing this, though worried, knew that he still had to worry about himself first. He turned around to apologize to Leo, then flew away. In the audience, everyone strongly opposed this foul play. "That's so dirty. This summoning department. Fight fairly." Leo frowned. "I knew I was hated, but I didn't expect them to work together to interfere like this." The commentator in the stands laughed loudly. "Haha, the fifth-year students are so loud. But this is a form of strategy. Ah, as I'm speaking, Walden has immediately dispelled the elemental magic. After dispelling the spell, he slowly walked towards his griffin, settling on top of the creature. He frowned at Leo. "You seem to be struggling. Do you need help?" Leo replied, "No, I'll handle it myself." Upon hearing this, Walden didn't say anything else and focused on his exam. Seeing Leo struggling to dispel the spells, Chelsea was very worried in the stands. "Oh my god, Leo." Professor Yura frowned. "The rift between the first-year students is deeper than I thought. They're openly cooperating against him. Leo's main expertise isn't spirits, but summoning. This exam will be difficult for." As she worried about what to do, a series of actions on the field left her stunned. Leo simply spread his arms, closed his eyes, and recited a series of strange incantations. "O spirits, please remove my shackles and open the path ahead. Grant me the great mercy of nature." In the space, two spirits, one red and one blue, appeared, giggling as they flew around Leo. Professor Yura could only smile wryly. He knows how to read spirit language, and even fluently. How is that possible? Suddenly, Leo glanced up at the stands, looking at her with a confident smile. Yura put her hands on her hips, sighing in relief. He must have learned how to summon. I was worrying for nothing. By this time, the other students had flown quite a distance. The guys who had been putting pressure on Leo's group were grinning. Haha, serves him right. So he's supposed to be the top student from the south and a representative of the system? He couldn't even get started. He'll definitely be at the bottom of the rankings. The chubby Ryu was also enthusiastic. Hey, how does it feel? Eliza, are you satisfied? Eliza coldly retorted, I don't like this. I can easily defeat Leo Plove, Walden, or anyone else without resorting to these underhanded tactics. Ryu was taken aback. Huh? She turned back, looking at him with disdain. What do you think other people will think of the summoning class after this? The chubby guy laughed coarsely. Who cares? Haha, those guys will have to face the humiliation. Eliza didn't bother to waste her breath talking to such a petty person, and flew away quickly. Next time, think carefully before you act. Being looked down on, Ryu was furious, grinding his teeth. That arrogant brat, always acting high and mighty just because her family supports her. But I'll definitely get second place anyway. Besides Eliza, I'm the best at controlling flying beasts. This time, just as he was gloating, someone shouted, Ryu, look behind you. A figure was speeding towards them. It was Chen Xia. She didn't bother sitting astride her mount but was posing as if she were surfing. The other students couldn't help but comment. What kind of pose is that? Ryu was also alarmed, without even using spirit power to strengthen her beast. This speed is impossible. Thinking this, he rallied. Everyone, take her down. A girl nearby summoned her spirit, intending to play dirty against Chen Xia. She immediately noticed, and spun around, flying over the girl's head, then jumped down, kicking the girl off her beast, leaving her no time to change clothes. Before falling, she shouted in resentment, "This is cheating." Chen just smiled. I didn't even use the light mechanism." Having finished, she flew up quickly, then flew right next to Ryu, greeting him cordially. The guy resentfully reminded Chen, "You made a mistake by turning us into enemies." The girl didn't care. I have to admit I'm not good at aerial combat. But I'm not your only opponent." Ryu didn't understand. "What do you mean by that?" Chen was still smiling brightly. "Someone is very angry about your petty tricks." Just as she finished speaking, boom, a large explosion rang out right behind the chubby guy. Startling him, Chen left a sentence. "It seems Walden is the type to repay any grudge." Then flew away quickly. The explosions continuously targeted the students who had been playing dirty. Walden cursed under his breath. "A bunch of trash. Take this gift in return." The students could only be described as falling like ripe fruit. The attacks weren't destructive, just small explosions that frightened them into falling off their mounts. On this side, Leo had just escaped the trap set by Ryu's group, the loudspeaker blaring. First-year representative Leo Plove is famous throughout Lumern for his ambition to join the best students in the academy. But today, he seems to be trying very hard to hog all the spotlight in this competition. But is summoning really Leo's fatal weakness? Leo stood before his mount, making an overall assessment of the animal. Suddenly, he saw on the wing a sharp object had been stabbed in by someone. The animal had been injured. Leo frowned, angry. As a candidate for hero, participating in such pranks is truly shameful. Leo tried to grab the reins, the monster growling in protest. The commentator continued, "Leo is trying to tame the griffin. My advice is not to try to ride a griffin when it is so wary." Celia worried, "Oh no, why does Leo have to try so hard?" Reese was calmer. "He must have his reasons." Down on the field, Leo tried to pull the animal a few times, but it always showed resistance. At this time he said, "I know how you feel. But at this time you have to listen to me." He glared at the animal. Kneel down. Overwhelmed by Leo's aura, the beast gradually became subdued, and eventually obediently followed Leo's words. He decisively pulled out the thorn that was stabbed in the animal's wing. Then climbed up, controlling the animal to take off. The commentator announced, "Leo's griffin has officially joined the flight path. A difficult start and compounded misfortune. It seems that the last place is inevitable." Leo rubbed and comforted the animal. "It will probably be very painful. But you have endured it very well. Very bravely." A golden light wrapped around Leo's hand. He muttered the spell. "In the name of the one who made the covenant, I command you, appear before me." The small, beautiful phoenix immediately appeared beside Leo. At that moment, flames wrapped around the griffin, causing it to thrash in fear. On the big screen, Celia was surprised. "What are those flames?" Reese didn't answer, only quietly judging. "Is it Zerdinger's fire?" "No, this isn't the fire of light energy." "So what exactly is it?" On this side, after suffering Walden's attacks, Ryu and his group discussed. "The griffin's injuries are very serious. If this continues we won't be able to reach maximum speed." Ryu was still very calm. "But at least we can avoid last place. Let's relax a bit." Suddenly, a light attracted the guy's attention. Leo was rushing up with incredible speed. His griffin, backed by Phoenix Fire, was accelerating, quickly catching up with everyone's speed. Leo smiled. "Now then, let's see, speed up a little more." Suddenly in front, a strange man riding a purple dragon with blue eyes appeared, startling Leo. "That's Ferner?" The dragon didn't seem to be flying with the others, but directly confronting the flying group. A few minutes earlier, when Walden was attacking the students, Eliza had caught up with his speed. She shouted, "This is the end for you, Walden." Walden only replied, "I can't give up first place." And he snapped his fingers. A flame flying towards Eliza. The girl predicted it, quickly dodging. Walden had used a critical strike using fire and wind spirits. This move wasn't just a simple display of the ability to control spiritual bodies. Eliza had never heard of her friend studying this magic class. Walden was indeed a formidable opponent. Suddenly, Eliza smiled, retorting, But no matter how strong the attack, if it doesn't hit, it's meaningless. Indeed, although Walden's attack was quite dangerous, it was only effective at a certain point. With her agility, Eliza expertly avoided all of Walden's explosion points. He wasn't willing to concede, withdrawing the fire technique, replacing it with ice technique, summoning sharp ice arrows, switching to a wide area attack. Then let's see if you can dodge this move. Alright? Walden flew up quickly, then fired the ice arrows straight down at Eliza. A light surrounded Eliza's beast. Then it looked up, spewing fire to counteract the ice arrows. This way of countering was quite effective. Walden frowned. Strengthening the summoned beast? The commentator was incredibly excited. Ah, what an amazing battle. Walden used 3 spiritual bodies for the attack, while Eliza responded by strengthening her summoned beast. Chen Xia, taking advantage of the situation where the bulls were fighting, weaved through the 2 opponents. Soaring to the top, the girl smiled. Then before she could finish speaking, a strand of purple magic rope had blocked Xia's neck. Eliza gripped the rope tightly, shouting, "I won't allow it, Xia." At this time, a small spark also flew in front of her. The girl panicked, jumping on the back of the griffin. Flipping once, the griffin also swooped down, escaping the explosion. Walden's dangerous attack. Then, Xia gritted her teeth, tearing apart Eliza's magic rope, then replied steadily on the back of her mount. She smirked. The top students of the summoning department. They really aren't ordinary. Suddenly, a thunderous scream made everyone confused. The chubby Ryu, no one knows when, had summoned a giant black dragon. Grinding his teeth and looking at Walden's group. "I'm going to kill all of you. You bastards," Chen Xia warned. "Ryu, riding something other than a unicorn lion is against the rules." The guy roared, as if he had gone crazy. "Shut up, I don't care about that stuff. Those who only know how to rely on talent. I'm going to kill all of you." The guy flew in a circle, then headed to the front. Facing the flying group, everyone started talking. "That idiot made a contract with a black dragon?" Eliza replied, "That's not a black dragon. It looks more like a mutation." Right at this time, Leo happened to fly over. Ryu was also very surprised. "Why are you following me here?" "Never mind, I'll take you down too." Not letting the chubby guy finish speaking, Leo looked at him intently, his eyes radiating a strong suppression, to the point where Walden's group looked stunned. "Where did you get that lizard?" Ryu sneered. "Haha, jealous? This is my ability. I signed the contract with my summoning magic. You seem jealous of my summoned beast." "Huh?" Leo looked at him with contempt. "Mistaking that thing for a summoned beast? How ridiculous. That is a mutated beast. A beast controlled by the mages of Tartarus. One of the mighty beasts of the Tartarus army that we destroyed in the era of the Great Disaster. Where did that idiot get that beast from?" Ryu couldn't wait, and ordered, "Attack, Black Dragon." Immediately, the monster opened its mouth, firing a beam of destruction at the flying group. Leo, Eliza and Walden hurriedly dodged. Only Chen Xia didn't react in time. Everyone hurriedly shouted, "Dodge!" But it was too late. Chen Xia only had time to summon a protective wall. But it was nothing compared to the Black Dragon's attack. Chen was hit. Both person and beast were thrown off and fell down. Leo quickly flew up, catching his friend who had fainted. He lost consciousness after the fall. "First, we need to ensure Chen Xia's safety." Leo directed the others to immediately descend to the ground. Ryu flew around above, laughing heartily. "So this is what it feels like to look down from above? Not bad." Inside the stadium, the commentator was also astonished. "Ah, the contestants have deviated from the course and are outside the broadcast range. Too much is happening at once. Ryu has summoned the Black Dragon and is attacking the other leaders." Mid-commentary, Professor Yura rushed over, kicking the commentator away. "Hey, you idiot, how can you still be commentating right now?" She immediately yelled into the mic. "Summoning department assistants, deploy flying summoned beasts immediately. The match is temporarily suspended." Other professors also rushed over at this moment. "What's going on, Yura?" She quickly explained the situation. "It seems that Ryu has signed a contract with a high-level demon beast instead of a normal summoned beast." Everyone was shocked. "What?" Yura continued. "He won't be able to withstand its influence for much longer." Sejin was doubtful. Is Ryu really controlling that high-level demon beast himself? Professor Herod suddenly appeared. Are you saying there's someone else controlling it? Sejin replied. I'm not sure, but it's very possible. Herod stepped forward and gave instructions. Alright, Yura, take the summoning assistants and stop Ryu. If necessary, restrain him and eliminate the demon beast. The rest of the faculty, spread out and protect the students. And Sejin, you'll come with me. Everyone quickly acknowledged the orders and set off. On this side, Leo had landed on the ground, laying Chen Sha down on the grass. Walden and Eliza also quickly landed. Walden looked up, warning, it's coming here. Ryu also landed on the grass, smiling broadly. If you were going to run, you should have hidden better. Shouldn't you? Gathering together in this open space? Leo slowly approached him. I'm not running. Ryu was taken aback. What? Leo continued to enlighten this idiot. The creature you're riding isn't a summoned beast. Nor is it a black dragon. Ryu retorted angrily. As someone from the summoning department, I'm telling you it's a black dragon. Why are you acting like you understand it better than me? Before he could finish, Leo interrupted. It's a demon beast. Hearing this, everyone was startled. Leo gradually approached. I'm waiting here to eliminate that disgusting demon beast. The figure and memories of the hero Kyle from years ago suddenly appeared. Faintly but clearly, in Leo's mind. Ryu, upon hearing this, burst into laughter. Eliza looked bewildered. Oh, God, he's gone mad. Ryu's eyes rolled back in his head. And he growled. What did you say? Do I look like I listened to you? With that, the black dragon opened its maw and spread fire towards everyone. Walden jumped forward, summoning a stone golem to block the flames. He's clearly lost it, he stated, to eliminate such a loathsome existence. I agree. Leo Plove. Ryu, on the other side, gnashed his teeth at the golem. Surprised. Is that golem magic? Eliza frowned and stepped forward. HMPH. Are you guys trying to act cool on your own? I'm joining in too. First, we need to get that idiot out of the enemy's reach. Walden announced. The golem is about to fall. Get ready. The obese Ryu spoke with disdain. You can't do anything right. Walden, and your golem is nothing special to me. Haha, just as I predicted, my summoned beast is top tier. The stone golem gradually cracked and crumbled. Ryu cackled and shot into the sky. Where are you, vermin? Eliza started her attack. She summoned a streak of purple light resembling a strain. Then screamed it, trying to ensnare Ryu, but he managed to evade it. He was furious. How dare you attack me? You bitch? Walden frowned and snapped his fingers. The black dragon, preparing to spew fire, started and looked up. A small burst of flames, accompanied by a hailstorm, rained down on it. Seeing the attack take effect, Walden murmured, now. Leo nodded in understanding. Ryu frowned, confused. Before he could finish, Leo, seemingly out of nowhere, was hovering above him. As soon as he was in range, Leo kicked Ryu squarely in the head, sending him crashing down. Ryu trembled, watching Leo approach. Then his voice suddenly changed, and his eyes turned bloodshot. Good effort trying to drag this kid away from the enemy. But it ends here. You brats. Eliza and Walden, on the ground, were deeply concerned. Wait, why are you going alone? Leo Plove? At this moment, on the black dragon's back, Han calmly looked at Ryu. You're the beast mage. Tartarus, where's your main body? It can't be far. Ryu pressed his swollen face close to Han's, sneering. You saw through my true identity? Interesting. Very interesting. You're still calm in this situation. You truly have the foundation of a perfect hero. In that case, you'll die here. He then launched a sudden attack. Leo unexpectedly jumped back to dodge, but he lost his jogging and fell freely through the air. He quickly summoned his baby phoenix. Flora, it's time to shine. Flora flew out, struggling to flap her wings and ascend. During this time, Leo suddenly thought about his past life. I'm an all-rounder, but I've never reached the pinnacle in any single element. Aaron and Dueno are more proficient in light magic, Luna in spells, and Lycinas in summoning. So, what I chose was fusion. Leo smiled, and a golden light shot from his hand, enveloping Flora. The baby phoenix seemed to be reborn within the light, transforming into a mature phoenix and swooping down to grab Leo. He smiled at his pet. Now you look more like a phoenix. Huh. Tartarus, in Ryu's form. was utterly astonished, looking at his roaring black dragon. It's reacting to the phoenix's energy. The antithesis of beasts. A phoenix contractor, what's your true identity? Leo smiled. If you tell me where you caught that Fafnir. I'll tell you. Ryu growled. You even know about the calamity level beast. I can't let you live. He then jerked the black dragon's loins. The black dragon lunged forward, opening its mouth to launch a magic orb. Leo pointed his sword at Ryu, summoning fire magic, and reminded Flora, careful, it's coming. Then he began to concentrate his power. Zerdinger's secret sword technique, Phoenix Breath. Secret art, Point of Light. As the black dragon opened its mouth to unleash its attack, Leo fired his own, blocking it perfectly. 2 streams of light, one gold and one red, engaged in a tug of war in the air. Leo gritted his teeth, knowing his power wasn't yet a match for the one before him. Ryu laughed triumphantly. It's over. Suddenly, he sensed something was wrong. The black dragon was also struggling violently. He was taken back. Who? Leo quickly realized that the power of the other energy stream was decreasing. The main body's under attack? His spirit power is dwindling. With that thought, Leo surged forward, his powerful flames blasting away the red light and engulfing the black dragon and Ryu. Ryu only managed to say 2 words. This guy. Then both he and the black dragon exploded into smoke and dust. Leo praised Flora. Good job, little one, now let's go home. As soon as he finished speaking more, Flora returned to her infant form. Leo's face fell, and then both he and his pet fell through the air like stones. In a corner of the forest, Tartarus sat calmly on a tree stump. Red light radiated continuously around him. You only got this far. Hero candidate, let's finish this. As he muttered, a blue light flared up and enveloped him. His entire body was bound tightly. Unable to move, he cried, Who is it? Professor Sejin flew in, his hands maintaining their gesture, firmly restraining Tartarus. This is for you, Beast Mage Tartarus. Professor Herod also arrived, frowning at him, but, in contrast, Tartarus didn't seem frightened, only smirking. Heh, so it's the 2 pillars of Lumern. Tartarus struggled to his feet, trying to escape Sejin's restraint. A bizarre black energy, covered in eyes and mouths, surrounded him. In an instant, a huge mouth engulfed him, and Tartarus vanished before the 2 professors' eyes. His mocking voice echoed through the space. Too bad, we'll have to reschedule. The villain left, leaving behind a pile of black stains on the ground. Sejin landed, looking displeased. He seems to have escaped. Herod waited. It seems they've started to become active again. Sejin approached, destroying the remaining traces of the enemy, and nodded. That's right, Lumern is no longer safe. Back with Leo, the 2, one human and one beast, were still falling freely through the air. Leo quickly reached out, embraced Flora, and commanded, Flora, return to the beast summon world. Suddenly, a worried voice called out, accompanied by the sound of flapping wings. Leo's body was suddenly caught. Leo, are you alright? He looked up. It was Professor Yura. The professor, having saved her student, landed on the lawn, breathing a sigh of relief. Thank goodness, we weren't too late. Tartarus, severely wounded, returned to his lair to meet his master. She was summoning dark magic to heal her beasts. She spoke with indifference. How embarrassing, to be defeated by a mother hero candidate? Tartarus clutched his wound, wincing. He's not an ordinary hero candidate. He has a contract with a phoenix. And he knows the true identity of Fafnir. Upon hearing this, the mysterious woman's eyes lit up, her face showing interest. This is starting to get interesting. After returning from the competition, Leo was somewhat pensive. He walked along the hallway, thinking. The midterm practical exam for summoning was cancelled. Sometime later, the day of the magic class practical exam arrived. Professor Len was already in class early. Hearing footsteps, Carl and Chelsea turned around, surprised to see their friend. Chloe, your hair? She looked noticeably worn out. A weary face and dark circles under her eyes were clear evidence. Chloe didn't respond, sitting down at her desk. Several friends around her were concerned. Did you stay up all night studying? You don't look well. But Chloe was silent, staring intently at the blackboard. Professor Len finally spoke. It seems everyone is here. Now focus. I hope you've all prepared original magic that embodies your personality. It would be a waste for me alone to witness your wonderful magic. So I've invited 3 people to join us. These 3 are your seniors. They graduated from the magic program 3 years ago, Realda Fedni, Aiden Slack, and Shin Hauj. They will be the judges for your exam today. The seniors who were introduced greeted the class in a friendly manner. Hello, underclassmen. Hey there, Carl whispered excitedly to Han. It looks like they're going to give us high marks this time. Leo responded, HMPH, will it be that easy? Professor Len began to call names. Eliana Layden, step forward. Eliana confidently stepped forward. Yes, sir. Hello, seniors. I am Eliana Layden from 5th grade. It's an honor to meet you all. Used to Eliana's lion's roar. Carl shuddered when he heard her using such a syrupy voice. Leo sighed. She began her exam with a dazzling light show of fireworks. My primary attribute is light. Realda looked interested. That's a rare attribute indeed. Eliana continued her exam. If you add the fire attribute to light magic like this. She snapped her fingers, summoning fire magic. Flames erupted, surrounding her, blending with the light, creating an absolutely cinematic scene. You can unleash a powerful heat ray magic. Shin looked at the scene before him, suddenly exclaimed, and then commented, it's no different from basic light magic. Eliana paused, her enthusiasm disappearing. After finishing the exam, it was time for the judges to give their scores. The 3 seniors wrote for a moment and then handed their scores to Professor Len. Eliana's score was a C-, with Shin and Realda giving C-, and Aiden giving C. The whole class buzzed with murmurs. A C? How harsh. Several people won. I want to drop the exam. Professor Len called the next name. Smith Rudbecca. After a while of presentation. This person also got a C. Next was Nick Arbin. A C-. Carl Thomas tried hard, earning a B+. Chelsea Llewellyn, needless to say, got an A. Carl and Chelsea were overjoyed to receive high marks. It could be said that they were the highest in the class so far. But the seniors were a little bored. Not bad, but something's missing. Professor Len said that this year's students are really skilled. But so far, they glanced at the last 3 papers. Let's see, the remaining students. Aiden smiled. These 3 are the real deal. The next student to be tested was Avid Llewellyn, a prominent figure in the magic class. He strode forward confidently, holding a piece of chalk. The girls below erupted in a flurry of excitement. Kya, he's so handsome. His looks deserve an A+. After painstakingly writing a series of formulas and drawings on the board, Avid presented, I will demonstrate a storm. Once completed, it will be estimated to rank first in the class. After finishing, Avid struck a very confident pose. Back a few days earlier at the Llewellyn family's castle. In the forest next to the castle, Avid set up an invisible room. 4 members of the family stood at the 4 corners, assisting him in his practice. Avid stood in the middle of the room. The 4 assistants had all summoned magic orbs, holding them in front of their chests. Avid closed his eyes, and his aura gradually became stronger. Avid tiptoed, flying into the air. A blue light wrapped around Avid and gradually spread throughout the room. He raised his head and shouted. A tornado erupted from the middle of the room, growing stronger over time, even breaking through the ceiling of the room and escaping outside. At this time, a deer approached the room. Before he could understand what was happening, he was lifted up by the tornado. Avid started, seeing the deer struggling, and quickly jumped up to rescue the animal. The tornado also gradually dissipated. Avid stroked and reassured the deer. Are you okay? The deer affectionately licked Avid's face, as if to express its thanks. Back to the present, Avid raised his hand, and a mini tornado immediately appeared. Magic that enhances the power of wind. It looks simple, but it's a high-level magic system that's difficult to use. Naturally, Avid snagged an A+ in his hands. Chelsea was proud. That's my brother for you. Looking at the next name, Professor Len's eyes suddenly sparkled. He smiled expectantly. Next up, Leo Plove. Leo went up and stood in front of everyone. The advanced magic that I will demonstrate is an element-less magic system. The 3 seniors were bewildered. What is that? I've never heard of that before. Leo explained. All existing magic has attribute manifestation techniques. Right? Aiden responded. Of course. That's the basic requirement to initiate all magic. Isn't it? Leo confidently smiled. My special magic formula system is compatible with all those techniques. The two seniors looked incredulous. What nonsense are you talking about? Shin raised an eyebrow. So, you mean you want to create a new magic system? Leo nodded. That's right. Professor Len, standing beside him, didn't bother to hide the proud expression on his face as he looked at Leo. Thinking to himself, this kid has to become a mage. Aiden disappointedly tapped his pen on the desk. That's disappointing. Leo, we didn't come here to listen to such nonsense. At this moment, Professor Len, with an infatuated expression, interjected. I'm eager to see it. Write that technique down quickly. Aiden sighed. Saying nothing, Rilda rested her chin on her hand, saying, all right, let's see it. Leo turned to the board, writing down a series of techniques to create his incantation. Rilda frowned, reminding him, hey, underclassmen, in history, there's only been one mage whose magic formula was their own special magic. Leo replied nonchalantly, that's right, it's Luna, the one who discovered Nebula. Rilda thought she was the only one who knew this. Seeing Leo naturally following up, she felt quite uncomfortable. Shin continued to ask, so, you mean to say you want to stand on par with that person? Do you think you're a mage comparable to the one who discovered Nebula? Leo was still quite calm. No way. Lady Luna can't be compared to me in many ways. Although Lady Luna also has limitations. Shin was taken aback. Seriously, what's wrong with these kids these days? Their delusions of grandeur are fierce. Huh? Leo finished the explanation for his technique. That's right. Although Lady Luna is a very talented mage, to create a magic formula, one doesn't necessarily need to be as skilled as her. There are many other ways. As everyone can see here. Leo pointed to the board. The three seniors sat blankly. Rilda admired. So, you weren't just talking nonsense. Aiden was also impressed. Look at those structures. It seems like all magic can be used without penalty. Carl leaned back, laughing and saying, oh God, even I can't touch that formula. It looks so complicated. I give up. Chelsea glanced at Chloe, only to see that her face kept darkening. On the platform, Aiden asked Leo a follow-up question. Leo Plove, why did you create this magic system? Leo became serious. To be able to use all the magic in the world freely. Aiden smiled, his eyes filled with interest as he looked at Leo. This kid is truly a crazy underclassman. Now I understand why the higher-ups value him so highly. He continued to ask, so, what's the name of this special magic? Leo smiled and snapped his fingers. A ball of silver light accumulated in his hand. He looked at it happily. It's called Scripture. Shin, upon hearing this name, was startled. Only one person in history had been able to use it. The magic system mottoed by the hero Kyle. Perhaps Leo could prove that Kyle actually existed. The three judges quickly wrote their scores and handed them to the professor. The professor was very pleased, smiling and announcing that Leo Plove received an A+. The professor thought to himself, a technique that wasn't perfectly completed in Kyle's time. It seems he's done it now. Han leisurely returned to his seat, watching Chloe prepare to go up. Now it's her turn. Chloe went up. As she passed Leo, he asked her with concern, Chloe, are you okay? But Chloe remained silent, not saying a word from the beginning of the exam until now. Professor Len announced, now, there's only one last person to present. Chloe Muller. Rilda was quite expecting. I heard you're the best student in the practical magic class. What have you prepared, underclassmen? Chloe's eyes suddenly turned dangerous. The special magic that I've prepared is fire magic. Boom! A red flame flashed on Chloe's hand. Everyone immediately stirred. Fire? Isn't Chloe's magic ice attribute? Chelsea was quite tense, thinking to herself, is there a reason behind turning an opposite attribute into her special magic? The judges, however, were already bored, thinking to themselves, but it's too ordinary. I thought she'd be on the same level as the two before her. Rilda picked up her pen, preparing to write the score on the paper. If that's all you can do, then there's nothing more to see. Your score is, Chloe slowly continued. Now, let me show you all the true value of this magic. She snapped her fingers, and a mini waterfall poured down on her. Chelsea and Han immediately realized. It's not being extinguished? One of the judges, incredulous, asked Chloe again. Did you really use the spell of perpetuity on the magic? Chloe smiled. That's right. Unless I cancel it, this fire will never be extinguished. With that, she clenched her hand. Sure enough, the fire disappeared. Magic is a law created by formulas. All magic disappears at some point if not supplied with energy. Chloe turned around and wrote the explanation for her technique. Aiden was quite surprised. Chloe created invariants in the formula. How could she? After writing the explanation, Chloe placed the chalk on the platform, adding, "The name of this special type of magic is eternal fire." Leo frowned, looking at her, saying to himself, "Impossible." Professor Len announced that Chloe's score was also an A+. Leo's mood was extremely complicated. Eternal fire. Even Luna failed with it. Only one entity can create a fire that never goes out. Erebos. A moment later, the sun set over the city of Lumern. Leo went to the lecture hall of the class. Sitting in contemplation, he recalled the conversation with Celia. "You want me to call Chloe?" Celia asked. She might be sleeping. She said she was going to go to bed early because she couldn't get any sleep during the study period. Leo turned to leave. "Okay, then I guess there's nothing I can do. I'll leave." Suddenly, Celia asked, "Has something been happening to Chloe lately?" Leo paused, looking at Celia. "Huh?" She explained. "She's been more sensitive these past few days. She's had a few arguments with classmates too. There are rumors that she's been hanging out with some bad guys at the magic tower. She's not the type of person like that." A small flame appeared next to Leo. The tiny baby Flora jumped out of the flame. Chirping, it rubbed against Leo's head. As if to nuzzle, he affectionately stroked it. Suddenly, a voice spoke. "Did you call me, Leo Plove?" Without knowing when, a very beautiful woman was standing next to Leo. Her whole body was surrounded by flames, looking extremely beautiful and ethereal.